Left for dead on the sands of Tatooine.
The most feared bounty hunter has survived certain doom and has come back to lay claim to the underworld. With Fennec Shand at his side, the galaxy will remember his name.
I am Boba Fett.
Join Cyber Ren and Dee Vizsla as they follow the chapters in the book of Boba Fett.
They're going to war.
Then we will be ready.
This is the Mandalore Podcast.
Welcome to The Mandalore, the definitive podcast for Star Wars on Disney+. And today we are in Star Wars bliss, staying on that wonderful, lush planet, watching the Jedi Academy temple being built, and feeling all the nostalgia. We are here to talk about Chapter 6 of the Book of Grogu and Luke. I mean, Boba Fett. And I am beyond happy right now. Cyber Ren.
Hey, everybody. Dee Vizsla here.
And this episode is called From the Desert Comes a Stranger. Very interesting name, which we'll talk about in a couple moments. Vizsla, I'm ecstatic. I was just wondering, are you vibrating like I am for these last few days, just waiting to, itching to talk about this episode?
Yes, very much so. Lots, unbelievable how many characters and appearances and a lot of discussions that happened in this episode that were really worth talking about, for sure.
Oh, yeah, just unbelievable. Mm-hmm. But before we get to all that discussion, we got some news to talk about. So, lots of fun stuff coming out, and let's kick it off with Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yes, three topics to talk about. Unfortunately, two of them are rumored reports. One is actually from Lucasfilm, so I'll actually start on that one. The actual Lucasfilm release news comes that a new comic series is starting in May, entitled Obi-Wan. So it's a 5-issue run, little mini-series covering, spanning his entire career. It's going to show him as a Padawan, young Padawan under Qui-Gon.
Wow.
Through some of the Clone Wars, and then of course some highlighting his time on Tatooine.
Right.
So that is coming out in May, 5 issues. So May, June, July, August, September will be that run, which of course then explains somewhat the rumor that which is apparently being reported as a leak from one of the Disney execs, somehow saying that the Obi-Wan series is debuting in May as well. And of course, we all know, we've mentioned it on this show, May the 4th is a Wednesday this year. So
crazy timing, eh?
So yeah, so all things are pointing towards Obi-Wan probably debuting May the 4th.
But they're also trying to hide that. Oh, because I remember seeing a tweet. The guy that let a leak was like, no. I actually was talking with the comic book. That's what I meant. He's trying to pull it back, right? So.
Yes, right. So I'm still, I don't know. Again, until Lucasfilm. Now, we've also mentioned on here, there's not going to be any kind of announcements prior to the Book of Boba Fett wrapping up. So I anticipate sometime next week. Or not next week, this coming Wednesday is the finale. So sometime next week probably, or the week after, we'll start hearing something about what's coming next. Which I'm still... I still think it's Obi-Wan. I've always said I think it's Obi-Wan, but I think Obi-Wan was going to come a little sooner. But maybe that just pushes everything back that I'm thinking, or maybe there is going to be some kind of overlap between Obi-Wan and the Bad Batch.
Yeah, it's strange because, like you said, Boba Fett is finaleing out next week, and that's only the second week of February.
Right.
So from week 2 of February to May 4th is a couple months.
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to have no new Star Wars on Disney Plus for a couple months? Because you and me kept talking about how they want to have a release schedule that keeps Star Wars in people's TV screens all year long.
Yes. The only other possibility I actually think could happen, and I thought of this just because I heard this news, is there's a world that could happen where you debut the book, or you debut the Bad Batch, and you almost have and you're used to this with the DC shows, you almost have a mid-season finale, and then you have Obi-Wan, and then you pick back up with the Bad Batch.
Whoa.
You almost have two parts of the season, basically, is what I think is possible, meaning that if you debut Bad Batch, let's just say sometime in March, you've got time to do 6, 7, 8 episodes, do Obi-Wan May the 4th, which will be, Obi-Wan's only rumored to be 4 to 6 episodes tops.
Yeah.
And then you bring Bad Batch back, sometime in June, and then you go until Andor comes out sometime in the fall. So I think that's a possibility. I still think I'm kind of leaning away from that, obviously, but it's still a possibility.
Yeah, would they do something like that? I don't know. To me, it's strange because why would they release an Obi-Wan comic book series that's one issue a month that's going to be telling almost the same story that we're going to watch on screen? Why would they release those back to back or side to side or whatever you want to call it?
Right.
So it almost makes me wonder: are they not going to hold on to Obi-Wan until the comics are done? We might not get Obi-Wan until the end of the year.
No, I definitely don't think that. I think you're right, though. I think that it is strange that they come out the same. That's why I still think Obi-Wan could come sooner, and then the comic comes at the tail end of Obi-Wan. That's how I still feel.
Because, if it's only 4 episodes, you could easily fit it in right after Boba Fett before May 4th. You could squeeze it in.
That's right.
Even 6 episodes. So, but is it ready? I don't know if it's ready. Who knows?
I think it's ready. I think what's still possible, too, is, you start it sooner, and maybe you have the finale on May the 4th. At the same time, maybe you debut the Bad Batch on May the 4th. You have 2 episodes.
It's Star Wars Day. Why not
Star Wars Day.
Yeah, why not just drop a bunch of awesome stuff instead of one?
That's right. Huh, and it makes sense, kind of. It does make sense. In either way, you still finish it before Celebration, which is at the end of May. So, it's hard to even think because there's no one's really talking about Celebration. Which is weird.
Maybe they're saving Obi-Wan for that.
It could be, or Bad Batch. That's the thing. You could, I don't know. I still think Obi-Wan's coming first. I do think Obi-Wan's still coming first.
To be on a fly on the wall at Lucasfilm right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, that's a lot of news, but actually nothing concrete.
Nothing concrete. And then the other bit of news that just came out this past week is apparently Lucasfilm has already greenlit season 2 of Andor.
What?
And that is getting shot apparently this fall, which season 1 will debut. So apparently they like what they see and they're excited about it. And there's some actors that are coming out, like what's the Sarsgaard? I can't remember his first name. The guy that plays
Stalin.
Yes, Stellan Sarsgaard. Thank you. He's come out and say he's praising the writing of Andor. He's Gilroy, who wrote it, is killing it. So apparently Lucasfilm feels the same way, and apparently they're coming back and shooting season 2 this fall.
That is cool. So that makes me ask the question then: is how far backwards in the timeline of Cassian Andor are we going? Because we know the story leads up to Rogue One, where nobody survives. So how much of a prequel are we going back? If they're planning on running the show for 4, 5, 6 seasons, they're probably going way back in time, which I don't know. I'm curious. What do you think about that?
I think it's a few years before Rogue One. And I say a few, like somewhere in that inside 5 years.
Okay.
Very similar to Star Wars Rebels. I think it's, I think Cassian's going to show Cassian with his own Rebel cell, that they're, because what happened was, obviously, like we saw in Rebels, which you haven't seen, right? You haven't seen Rebels yet, right? So
We're halfway through season 2. So
oh, okay. So you started it. So, like that, how that begins, where you just have a bunch of rebel cells around, which are kind of on their own. And of course, then you have Saul Guerrero out there who's being an extremist. It wasn't until literally and you'll get there in Rebels, but it's literally right before episode 4, roughly about a year or two, is when they actually formed the Rebel Alliance. Basically, they all joined forces. So I think that's what we're going to see. I think Andor is going to be one of those cells out there operating his own. And I do think, similar to Boba in a sense, I think we're going to get some flashbacks of him as a kid. You remember in Rogue One, he talks about, I've been in this war since I was 6 years old. I think we're going to see some of that when he's younger, how he got into this whole thing. Maybe we only see that in the beginning of the series, where it shows how he got in. Maybe something tragic happened to his parents, blah, 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 Yeah. I think we're going to see some of that. And I think we're going to get the show's called Andor, so we've got to do a deep dive into his character.
So let me ask you, how interested are you in anticipating this show? Because I know all the talk's been about Obi-Wan, and all the talk's been about Bad Batch or whatever. We haven't actually talked a lot about Andor. Are you really anticipating? Is this a story that you want to dive into?
I'm more right now. Obviously, I'm more excited about Obi-Wan because of that whole Obi-Wan and Vader and all that stuff.
Yeah, by far. It's
by far
way ahead of everybody else.
But right now, I'm more excited about Bad Batch just because I know I've seen season 1. And I know that story. I'm excited about Andor. I do, only because I really loved Rogue One, and I hope what I see in Andor, which obviously I think we're going to get because Mon Mothma's the character Mon Mothma's in it. Hopefully Bail Organa is in it. I don't know. I can't remember if Jimmy Smits has been confirmed or not. Yeah. But I hope we see more of that, more of the the politicians and how they got together and how they formed this thing and because right now all we know is that there was these rebel cells out there and they were trying to help people and defy the Empire. But why? What got them into this? And why? And Andor is an interesting character, so I'm excited about it. I don't think like Rogue One, I don't think there's going to be any Force aspect to this show. They kept talking about it being like more of a spy genre and espionage type show. So I don't think we're going to have the Force aspect, which is a little sad, but you never know, because I do think it's possible that Inquisitors show up. I still think that that's a possibility. You're going to have a ton of stormtroopers, obviously, maybe bounty hunters and stuff like that. But it's just going to be a lot of battles, a lot of fighting,
which is cool. I mean, we'll get on the ground foot soldier type battles, little pockets of armies versus each other, which is going to be exciting. And I like the idea, this is espionage and spy games and intrigue, which I find fascinating. We like watching, here at home, we like watching the Jack Ryan series on Amazon Prime.
Yes, I love Jack Ryan. That's great. Yeah, that's a great show.
So just imagine that type of story in a Star Wars world. It's gonna. Yep. I think I'm getting more and more amped up as we learn about it, and just the idea, this is going to be a different type of show than what we've been watching, and it's just something new in Star Wars, and it leads me to remind people, if you haven't gone to the Facebook group, join the Facebook group, because we're always posting stuff in there. And I don't know if you saw this, I just posted a little Simpsons picture in there, and it was Lisa Simpson sitting in front of a class with the chalkboard, and she wrote on the chalkboard, "Any Star Wars is good Star Wars."
That's right. Yep.
And that's exactly how I feel. I think that's how we both feel. It doesn't matter if we have things that we complain about or things we're like, I wish we did better. It doesn't matter. Everything that they're releasing, I'm just so thankful we're getting more Star Wars, because it could have stopped many years, 40 years ago. Could have been the end, but we're lucky to be living here where we're getting all this new Star Wars.
Yep, that's right.
We're going to talk about it throughout this episode, but I'm honestly really tired about the whiners and complainers that just have to nitpick every little detail about things that they expect to be different. And you know what? Then you're not a true fan. If you're going to cry that much, you're not a real Star Wars fan, because you're not appreciating that they just brought you something really cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. Excited for it all.
Cool. Now, here's another piece of news, which I think is really, really cool, because The Mandalore is actually going to be part of this tomorrow, February 7th, Monday. So I guess we could say today, because we're recording Sunday night. The episode gets released Monday morning to everybody. So all of you that are listening right now on February 7th, the Monday, it is Star Wars Podcast Day. And we are part of it. We had to sign up or include ourselves in it. Vizsla, and you said you've got some details. There's like 80-something Star Wars podcasts?
97.
97 now.
97.
All right. So, 97 Star Wars podcasts on the list that are going to be part of International Star Wars Podcast Day, and that means there is going to be hashtags all over Twitter and the internet, and I believe one of them is hashtag Star Wars Podcast Day, and the other one is hashtag SWPD 2022. So for those of you that are into the social media realm, that's how you can help spread this show around and be part of the podcast Star Wars Podcast Day. Just to any type of promotion to help us or help you guys show that we are part of Star Wars Day, I think will help. So get on your Twitter accounts, get whatever, however you listen to the show, just add those hashtags with our podcast, and it'll just get the word. And then what it does is it amps up our exposure for Star Wars in general, whether it's Lucasfilm or Disney or whatever. They'll see, holy, the Mandalore is getting like a lot of attention here. They're really, social media is really pumping out whoever this Mandalore podcast is. So that's where it's going to be really, really cool. So, and I think it's exciting. I mean, Inside the Force, your other show, is also part of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, yep. I'll put a show out also today. And like I said, and all 97, I think, may not put out shows today. I think it's just acknowledging the day, even if it comes out, on the 8th or 9th. But a lot of shows are putting out shows today. So it's just a big community effort to, spread the word about Star Wars shows.
And it just happens to fall on our normal release schedule.
That's right.
Yes. We didn't plan that at all.
That's right. That's right.
That's very, very cool. So it's Star Wars Podcast Day. And yeah, we're going to be part of that. It's kind of fun. So the only other thing after that, we just want to make sure that along with that hashtag, you're going to spread the word about our show, because that's what helps us the most. And then to remind you about our Patreon at patreon.com/themandalorepodcast. And this week is dedicated to our new Patreon supporter known as the Beardcaster. And I believe that is Scott Sikora on Facebook. He's the guy with the really long ZZ Top like beard, and he's been a huge fan of ours. He's been really cross-posting for us and telling all of his friends, and because I believe he runs a podcast himself about beards, which is interesting. And he's
nice.
He's invited us he wants us to create a promo for his show. He's been trying to get his listeners to jump over, because I guess they're all Star Wars fans. So he's been helping us out a lot. So we just wanted to say thanks so much to the Beardcaster for your support. It's fantastic. Totally appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes. All right. Let's move into our overall impressions and ratings for this episode.
May the Force be with you.
All right. So, Vizsla, I'm curious. How many times did you watch this episode?
4 times. I watched it 4 times.
One more than me.
Yes.
Oh, and probably another couple.
Yeah, I probably will get one more in at least before the finale.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. All right. This one, let's just get to our ratings, because as a Star Wars show, this is an 11 Temple Droids. An 11. I have not seen anything this good on Star Wars TV. It's simply the best Star Wars TV we have ever gotten out of, and I'm putting up against cartoons, live action TV shows, whatever, bonus stuff. Best Star Wars TV ever. As a Boba Fett episode, I can't even really grade it for that, because it wasn't a Boba Fett episode, again. But let's get real here. It doesn't get any better than this. We got Grogu back. We get to see Luke again. Ahsoka even shows up. R2 is here with us. And then you throw in a surprise return of Cobb Vanth having to face down the shocking reveal of Cad Bane, along with some other whoa moments. This episode just leaves you speechless, it leaves you in tears, and it leaves you smiling ear to ear all at the same time. Star Wars perfection, and I can't even imagine what the finale is going to behold, but we sure are going to talk about it. I'm over the Endor moon.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'll give it 10 Camtono bombs, unfortunately. But yeah, 10, every bit of it. This was every bit as good as last week's episode, so I gave that a 10. Naturally, this has got to be a 10. But, you know, for all the reasons you said, tons of cameos, lots of characters, the reveal of the live-action Cad Bane, all of these reasons make it a great episode. But, to be honest, for me, you can do all those things and still write a poor episode. But that's not the case with this. The structure of this episode really stood out to me. It was just extremely well paced. It didn't feel rushed. It didn't feel like it was too fast or too slow. It drew you in as a viewer to all the conversations that were happening. And the conversations, were very interesting. Din talking to Ahsoka. Ahsoka talking with Luke. Luke, of course, his final conversation with Grogu. And then, of course, you get the cliffhanger at the end. It's so well done from start to finish.
Yeah.
I guess like Bryce Dallas Howard last week, shouldn't everybody be chanting, give Filoni a Star Wars movie? Because I think we should give Filoni a Star Wars movie.
Heck yes. I'm so with you. You're really actually very accurate with what you said. The structure of this episode, the way it was put together from start to finish just flowed. Mm-hmm. It didn't matter if we jumped from Luke and Grogu to Mando in the woods to back to Tatooine and seeing what's happening there, and then back to Luke and Grogu. It didn't matter. Everything just was seamless and so well put together. You're on the edge of your seat, or you're not blinking. Whatever all these little sayings are, it gripped you from start to finish because of how well it was put together. You're right. They could mess it up and just throw a whole bunch of things at you, and it makes a mess.
That's right.
But this wasn't. This was far from it.
And then the weirdest thing is you have this title, right? The title of the episode, and nothing of that comes to fruition until towards the end. Because the whole time I'm thinking, what the heck? Why is it called that? I mean, you kind of get a hint of it a little bit from the beginning with intro Cobb, but it makes you kind of forget that as you're watching. It's just fantastic.
I swear you've read the notes already.
I skimmed. I always skim through the notes. I don't know if I remember them.
We're going to talk about exactly what your thought process just was. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I gave this one 11. I just can't. There's just nothing about this episode to dislike at all. And if I hear one single complaint out there, I'm going to shut them right up.
Yeah, right. I don't hear anybody complaining.
Yeah. Well, there is. I got it in notes here. There is some things out there, which is why I kind of mentioned it at the top of the show. Like, you guys just aren't Star Wars fans. If you're going to about this episode, just stop watching the show. Anyway, let's get into our Cantina chat because we got a lot of fun stuff. I actually, as I wrote my notes, almost everything was bounty section material. So I had to double back and start finding just little things to talk about that I could throw in the chatter section because the Cantina chatter is what that's all about. And we can't have an empty section. So
yeah, right.
So we're going to get to Cantina chatter. Let's do that now.
What if he doesn't survive? He's worth a lot to me.
The first thing I want to talk about, and it's not the opening shot this time, it's the music. Oh my Star Wars senses. The music of these last two episodes is just absolutely beautiful. All the little touches to the original scores, the themes that we all know so well from the movies and the TV shows, the character themes, everything. It was just so wonderfully sewn together, and you're just absorbed into it, especially this episode. Like, when it was going from scene to scene, the music that transitioned with it, whether we're with Luke and Grogu or with Mando and R2 or Ahsoka shows, I had goosebumps from the music.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's two music cues that really stood out to me. Obviously, were Ahsoka talking to Din, about that situation. When she comes over and puts her hand on his shoulder, there was a awesome music cue there that really hits you. And then, of course, Luke, when he goes up the bamboo tree and they're looking out and he's talking to Grogu. I mean, you get that whole Binary Sunset type music, and it's just, yeah, it did hit you pretty hard.
I can't wait till they release that, because I don't think this episode's music is out yet.
Nope, not these last 4 episodes. No, not yet. There are 3 episodes.
Yeah. Oh, it'd be so good. Yeah, I found episode 1 to 4 on YouTube. Somebody's got it up there. But amazing stuff. Now, the next thing I want to bring up here is the title, which is what you were just kind of bringing up.
Yep.
From the Desert Comes a Stranger. So what I wanted to ask you is seeing that title, did you have any clue at all who they might be referring to? Because my first thought was the Tusken warrior woman. But then I thought, she's not a stranger, but she could be a stranger to Cobb Vanth, since that opened up to Cobb Vanth. So I was like, okay, maybe it's going to be her. Because, I mean, how shocking would that be? That, yes, she survived all these last couple of years, and she's coming back now. But that, like you said, the episode then made me forget all about the title until that moment in the episode comes up when it is about the stranger from the desert. I completely forgot about it.
Yeah, because we open with Cobb Vanth, right? That whole scene happens before the title comes up. When the title came up, I thought, okay, I just briefly thought, okay, we're going to come back to this. We're going to see Cobb Vanth again. But is the stranger referring to like Mando visiting Cobb? But that's like, he's not a stranger anymore, so that can't be it.
Yeah.
I didn't think about the Raiders at all, the Tusken Raiders, because no matter how much I do want to, I'm still curious on what happens to the female one, if ever we'll get that answer. Doesn't look like we are. But no, I didn't. As soon as we leave that title, I mean, we see Din approaching the planet, and I'm like, my mind just goes there right away. So I didn't even think about anything until, I mean, you get that sense, obviously, right? Yes, right when Din leaves, you knew something was going to happen there. So, yeah. Did I see him coming? No, I didn't see him coming.
I had no. I mean, it could have even just been an offhanded thing, like the stranger in the desert. Well, Cobb Vanth doesn't know anything about these. He doesn't know who these the syndicate people, the Pikes, are. So maybe they're strangers to him,
yes.
And he runs into them. So that's the stranger in the desert.
Yep.
And he shoos them away. Like it could have been something simple, but yeah, I had no clue. I think we had talked about the possibility of Cad Bane coming. I don't think it was ever verified.
No, it's never been verified. No, I knew he was going to come at some point. I mean, Filoni is going to bring him in live action at some point. But the way he did it just is really good. It makes sense that he would be hired by the syndicate.
Yeah, and we'll come around to him later on in the show. So we talked about Cobb Vanth. I've got almost everything in the bounty section, but there's a couple points here I want to talk about him here. First off, I mean, I didn't expect to see him return at all. I mean, it was a surprise just to see Cobb Vanth in the opening shot.
Very big surprise. No, I kind of figured his story was done since he gave up his armor. No, I don't know. I didn't think of any reason why, Mando would go back to that town. So, yeah, very surprised.
Very surprised. And what I thought was a little bit interesting and funny is he's got a new deputy, albeit a very short-lived deputy.
Yes.
But still, he's got someone working with him.
Right. Very short-lived. Unfortunately, that guy's not going to be cast in any other shows.
Cad Bane made sure he was dead. I mean, I don't know, was like 5 or 6 shots to the chest?
Yes.
Took him down.
Yeah. I thought it was very interesting because I don't think you have this in the notes later, but just for people to listen, if you caught that they renamed the town Freetown again.
Yeah.
Because that's what actually was the name in the Aftermath series. So when Cobb Vanth was first introduced, he was the Marshal of Freetown. So what they're claiming, at least what they're claiming in on canon now on Wikipedia is that it was Freetown, and then the name later on at some point changed to Mos Pelgo, and then after the Marshal came and all this thing happened, they renamed it back to Freetown. So, it doesn't really matter, but either way, it's called Freetown now.
Okay, I thought it was Mos Pelgo, and because the Marshal came over and saved it, and they want to break away from it, I thought he said, we've got a new name now.
Yes,
it's Freetown. We're calling the town Freetown. So I thought maybe this was just a bit of a prequel, showing us a little bit of story of Cobb Vanth before his introduction. In the stories that you're talking about, maybe this was just a lead up to that, and they're playing with the timeline a little bit because they always do in the live action stuff.
Yeah, because in the books, all that book stuff happens before the show, right? So because that book happens, so they're technically in the within the 5 years prior to this, after Return of the Jedi kind of thing. So apparently it was because there's no mention of Mos Pelgo in those books. So I mean, you can kind of. Anything that's in the live action technically trumps anything that's in the publication. So
so I think they just
they kind of rewrote that a little bit, but but they've tried to squeeze, as in people anyway, they've tried to squeeze in the timeline of making that stuff still canon somehow, but
as close as they can. Yeah, cool. I loved when Mando shows up to Freetown. And the deputy's giving him heck to go park his ship elsewhere, and Cobb's like, "Don't worry, I got this handled." Mando says, "Haven't seen you since you gave up the armor. How are you?" I was like, "That's just weird for Mando just to strike up conversation." But then Cobb Vanth's response just made me laugh, because Mando says, "Since you gave up the armor," and Cobb Vanth says, "More careful."
Yes.
I just started laughing. Just snarky. I love it.
Haven't seen you, and he says that like, "Haven't seen you since you gave up the armor," like almost like we're gonna cross paths somewhere in this galaxy somewhere. It's like, of course you haven't seen him. You haven't been back here. Oh yeah, but that's funny.
It's like he's uncomfortable with. He doesn't know how to start small talk or something, and Mando doesn't talk very much. So now he's trying to. It's just the whole scene was just funny. But that's when my thoughts kind of changed. Maybe he's the stranger in the title they're talking about, because it's like, "Oh, I haven't seen you in a long time, stranger." You know how people say that? Mm-hmm. We haven't seen you. Well, hey, stranger. I just thought, okay, maybe they're messing with us there too.
Well, it's true though, because if he does, if Mando does take him, back to Boba's palace and introduces him, then he is the stranger to them. So it kind of
from the desert to Boba Fett.
Because that would make sense.
Yeah,
but it's not.
Yeah. No, it's not. It's not. Well, one character that I really want to get into, and I put him all in the Cantina chat here, and this is R2-D2. And you all know R2 is my favorite droid and possibly my favorite Star Wars character of all time. So to see him here on screen again just melted me with nostalgic emotions. All his chirping and talking the way that only R2 does compared to all other mech droids. Plus his happy whistling as they're strolling through the forest. I mean, just tears of happiness for me.
Yeah, no, it was. It's always good to see R2, and of course, the beauty of always seeing R2, Luke is not very far behind. So as soon as you saw him, you knew we were going to get a lot of Luke in this. So R2 is just he's everybody's favorite droid, I would think. I mean, I guess BB-8. My kids really like BB-8, but R2 is the one that's just is most familiar, most personable. Yeah, he's fantastic.
Well, let me add to that here. Like, having R2 here on these new shows in the Star Wars galaxy, it really solidifies the completeness of them. Like these new shows, like Boba Fett and Mandalorian, and even Bad Batch, and even Ahsoka when it shows up. R2 solidifies the completeness of these shows. He's the connection to all the Star Wars lore and history, making these new shows truly part of the galaxy. And that's because R2 is one of, if not the only character to appear in just about everything ever done in Star Wars. He's the point of connection to all things.
Yeah, very much so. Besides these shows, it's always been him and 3PO. Him and 3PO are the only ones that have showed up in all of the Star Wars movies. Besides Solo,
and
obviously.
TV shows.
But yes, TV shows also. Because they...
Clone Wars, Rebels, they've been in everything.
Yes, that's right.
So that's what I mean. So yeah, I mean you could include 3PO in there too, but there's been a lot of times when R2 is just with Anakin or just with Luke or whatever. So R2 truly is, and that leads back to that discussion we had a while ago about him, how he's never had his memory wiped. He remembers everything that he's ever witnessed.
That's right.
From the very beginning. So that's what I mean. He is the central point. He's the cog in the wheel of spokes to all of Star Wars. It's crazy.
Right. That's right.
And that's what I mean. As soon as you see him here and you see our characters interacting with him, it's like he just, like I said, completes the show. It just makes it's like, okay, Boba Fett is now part of the universe. Mandalorian is now part of this universe because he's having a conversation. There's Mando walking with R2 through the forest.
Yeah.
It just blows me.
It's awesome.
I just over the moon, like I said, with this stuff. Now, what was funny about R2 is he has his own droid workforce, which I thought was great because they're all painted silver and blue, just like him. They got his color scheme, and I just got a good kick out of that.
Yeah, very, very cool. I didn't notice the blue stripes until after a couple showings, but yeah, very, very much colored like him. So, they're kind of like ant droids. Yeah,
they were. It was like an ant workforce.
Yeah.
Yep, which is cool. And I mean, he even instructs the one to go build a bench for Mando.
Right. Yeah,
to wait on, which I thought is funny. So he's it's like his workforce. He's the boss. He's the warehouse manager.
Yes.
Just fun stuff. Just love having R2 there. And like I said, his whistling and his chirping. I mean, no other mech droid chirps and beeps the way R2 does. It's so distinct. His language. And his whistling.
That's right.
I mean, I love it. All right. Well, let's talk about that training remote. We all know it. That little miniature Death Star looking thing. The little training ball that Obi-Wan first brought out. Very first time we seen it when he was training Luke on the Millennium Falcon. Oh, the nostalgia with this episode. I mean, it's just blown me away. And I just find it funny how Luke still has one of these training balls all these years later. I'm just wondering, is that really old tech or is it something that just has carried on? It's just funny seeing it. It looks exactly the same as from A New Hope.
Yeah, could probably be the same one, I guess. I mean,
yeah, maybe.
I mean, there was. It's not the same one, I don't think. But there was you remember in The Force Awakens when Finn is going through stuff to help Chewie with his bandage, he pulls out the remote also.
Yeah,
the training remote, which obviously is a different one, but so that was probably the same one from A New Hope because he was on the Falcon. Yeah, so this is probably a different one, but yeah, still training with the training remotes. Yep. Yeah,
it's pretty funny. Now I have to admit, while Alyssa Tano beside me kind of shrieked with "Oh my God," I burst out laughing. I think this has made me laugh more than anything in Star Wars ever. When it blasted Grogu at the feet and he went flying back, I laughed. So I had to pause it and rewind it because I was laughing so hard my eyes were closed. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen in Star Wars.
It was pretty good, yeah. I felt kind of sorry for the kid.
Yeah, because he squeals. Yes. You hear him squeal.
Well, he didn't know what that thing is, what it was going to do.
No. He had no idea. He's watching it with wide-eyed excitement, like, what is that? Whoa. And then it blasts him at the feet and it sends him flying back. But obviously, Luke's not going to hurt him with it or anything, so he's totally fine. But
yeah.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, it's more like a shocking blast than an actual laser.
Yeah. We saw him get electrocuted on the Razor Crest. Far worse than that.
True. Yes.
So, it just his squeak was hilarious, and this was so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't. So jumping ahead, Mando flying to Tatooine after his little visit there. He goes right up to Jabba's parking garage, which we've been bringing up on the show quite a few times. He flies the ship right in to dock it there. And it kind of gives us a really good idea of the size inside of this garage and what it's actually used for. And I just thought, you know what, this is a cool new part of the lore around Jabba's palace. We've been getting this parking garage quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the great thing about Star Wars is always trying to show us new locations and new things. And, so even though it's a similar location, we haven't seen this part of the palace. So, yeah, you can tell, you definitely could tell the size of the N1 is a lot smaller than the Slave One, because Slave One almost took up the entire space there.
He had trouble turning
around and getting out. Yeah, so pretty easy for him to fly in there and park. I'm still blown away by, those N1s. Even when they're off, they're still hovering above the ground somehow.
Speeder technology or something.
There's almost like a magnetic field there that it won't allow it to get to the ground. It's pretty interesting.
Somebody pointed it out, I don't know if it was on our Facebook group, somebody pointed out about a couple of the ships, how their engines are pointing front and back, and yet they're able to lift straight up off the ground.
Yeah.
Explain the engineering there. So I'm wondering
physics don't have rules in Star Wars.
No, unless it's a speeder bike technology, because they've never explained how a speeder bike works.
Right, yeah. That's very similar, yeah, because those are always still up in the air. Yeah.
Yeah. And even when they shut them down and turn them off, they're still floating.
That's right.
Even with Luke's land speeder and all the other land speeders we've seen, they're just always floating. So what is... we have to get one of those other encyclopedias. I found a bunch on Amazon I put in my shopping cart. I'm going to buy one at a time. It's like the Star Wars Encyclopedia of Vehicles, and Star Wars Encyclopedia of Planets, and I want to get all of them, because this Encyclopedia of Creatures that I have has been very handy. I want to get those for each, the planets, the map. I think there's one about the map of the galaxy, and creatures, and I want to get them all. So, and maybe in there it'll explain how a speeder bike works.
Yeah. I'm sure there's some. I'm sure there's an explanation. Yeah, that I haven't read yet.
Well, this may be the only time we ever mention him on this show, which is on par for this show, these last two episodes, because once again, Boba Fett is barely a blip in his own TV show. I mean, at least he made an appearance this time. He had one facial expression, but he didn't say anything. He had no lines of dialogue. Fennec did all the talking.
Yeah, that was surprising. Because honestly, the first viewing, I didn't realize he didn't say anything. And then the second time I'm watching, I'm like, wow, he just doesn't say a word. Like, 2 episodes, he hasn't said a word.
All he did was look at Mando and give a slight nod.
Yes.
That was all we got.
Yep. And then he had like a little confused look to Fennec when Din was like, I think I can help with that. Yeah. So, yeah. He didn't do much. 7 episodes of his own show, and 2 of them he doesn't say a word.
So as long as the finale is all about his fight to save Tatooine, his Book of Boba Fett is down to only 5 episodes.
That's right.
That's it.
That's right. Yeah.
Which is just so weird. Like, why would they should call these last 2 episodes Mandalorian 2.5 or whatever it's just such a departure. It's crazy.
Yeah, it definitely is Mandalorian 2.5, this whole thing. So I think we're seeing why that was the rumor behind it when they were filming it.
Right. Yeah, just crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know. But as I said, that's probably the last we're going to talk from this episode.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the Jawas for a second, because I found it kind of surprising, just the timeline of everything. But it looks like they took the Krayt Dragon's skull with them, and they had it way up on top of their sandcrawler there. And I was just wondering, what are they going to do with that? It's the skull. It's like the meat's all been picked clean. They're not going to eat it. What are they going to do with the skull?
I don't think they're going to do anything. I think to me it almost kind of looks like a hood ornament, to their sandcrawler.
Oh, really? I didn't even think of that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's just like, look what we got kind of thing, as there's all these sandcrawlers kind of floating around. I don't think they're going to do anything with it. They just, something that they claimed, and maybe they could trade for it at some point, but I don't know. I don't know what they'd get back for it.
I don't know, but yeah. But that'd be pretty funny. It's like they're going to go around to all the little Jawa camps and compare sandcrawlers. Oh yeah, look at us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that looks badass on top of there.
Oh man, it shows you the size of it too. Like, that thing was huge.
That's right.
So I got a question for you about these little guys. We see the sandcrawler with the skull on top, and then Mando flies in and does a loop around the sandcrawler. And he almost kind of nods at them. Not that they could see him or anything, but they're all waving and cheering and high, like fist pumping. Are they cheering for Mando? Are they waving at him like, "Hey, we're your friend"? Like, what's going on there?
I don't know. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's hinting that is the same group that that he got involved with that first season.
He got the
egg for, right?
There.
Yeah. Maybe that's what that's implying. I don't know. I didn't get the feeling either way if they were acknowledging him or cheering him or knew who it was. They just kind of saw the ship fly by, but maybe that's what it was. That they were the same.
They were excited.
Same group. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe they just liked the ship.
Actually, it can't be that.
They'd never seen.
It can't be that because that was on a different planet. So it's not the same group.
Yeah.
So he's never come across these guys on Tatooine in a way. So I don't think they knew who he was.
Well, they wouldn't recognize the ship because this is his first time to Tatooine with his new ship, so they wouldn't recognize the ship unless when he did the lap around them, he was close enough that they could see it was him in there because he was there to help. I mean, they probably witnessed the crate dragon killing and all that stuff, so maybe they were just acknowledging, yeah, there's the guy that killed it.
That's true, too. That could be it. Yeah, that could be.
Yeah.
But he hasn't had any, that we know of, any kind of run-ins with the Jawas on Tatooine.
On Tatooine,
yeah.
I don't know. 'Cause what was the planet with...
except actually, they could have been the guys that got the parts for the fighter, though. That could be it.
Oh, that could be.
Yeah, that's probably
right.
it. That's probably it. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't think about that.
Because they would recognize it.
Yes.
They were there during the building. Yeah,
that's probably it. Yep. Totally forgot about that.
He did a flyby just to say thanks or something.
Yeah, check it out. Like, check what I'm in.
Check it out.
Yeah. That's actually pretty cool. Yeah.
He's making friends, man. He's just having a good time. Yeah. So the Garsa Sanctuary. A pair of Pikes stroll in and leave a bomb at their table and blow up the sanctuary. Holy crap. Does that mean everybody inside is dead, even Garsa herself? Because the protocol droid picked up the bomb and turned to head to the door saying, "Hey, you forgot this!" And he's standing maybe 10, 15 feet from Garsa, and then we see the explosion. So I don't think she could have survived that. I don't think anybody survived in there because that thing blew up really good.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think they're all gone. I think that's the last we saw of Garsa, unfortunately.
Wow.
The way that blast reached outside, I mean, people outside were flying away, getting blown away. So there's no way anybody...
It went right through her.
There's no way anybody inside could have survived.
Wow. So that's a shock right there. There's a lot of those kind of moments in this episode. Like, holy crap, you just wiped out a lot of... what's his name? The band members, the blue guy.
Yeah, Max Rebo, was he in there?
Max Rebo, he's dead.
I didn't even see if he was in there or not, but yeah, more than likely if he was in there, he's gone.
Well, we saw the clarinet playing guy. I can't remember his name. I had him a couple episodes ago. He was there. We saw the droid drummer, and there are a couple other band members. Yeah, but I don't know if I saw Max Rebo. But even still, I think that was his band. So
yeah,
there's a lot of characters they just killed off in that one moment.
Yeah, like I said, it was. I don't think we've had this kind of a cliffhanger, like this in this series, this season. So that was very surprising.
That was like a middle of the episode cliffhanger thing. Yeah, it was really weird, just crazy. I'm like, holy crap! So what it leads me to think is that the Pikes are basically taking out any of Boba's connections, anybody that's been connected to him that, or maybe helping him or supporting him. They're taking them out one by one.
Yeah, they're definitely They're definitely provoking war for sure, and this definitely will do that.
I think if Boba finds out about, well, when he does find out about Garsa's sanctuary, that's going to piss him off. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Crazy. Well, the last Cantina chatter point I have is I want to talk about that little shirt of Beskar mail. Instead of chain mail, it's Beskar mail. It was a suit of armor for Grogu. We were talking about it last episode. But all it was the shirt folded up inside that little bag. So it totally fooled me because we were like, it's way too small. It can't be a shirt. But I guess, obviously, it can be. Mm-hmm. And I just laughed at it. It's so little. It's so cool. It's so cute. And if Grogu wears it, it's a suit of Beskar. That would protect him from almost anything. Even a lightsaber.
Yes. From anything, yeah. Yeah, full protection, just like Mando. You won't be able to shoot him. Won't be able to. Obviously, you can hit him in the head, but
yeah.
But he's definitely protected. That's really cool.
Protected. I mean, we will talk about Grogu and all that stuff.
If he chooses it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. We're going to get to that point, but on this moment here, seeing it, I just wish we saw him in it. I mean, he's been wearing the same little beige tan colored jacket.
Yes.
I would love to see him.
I was thinking that when he was flipping around, like, why don't he get any tighter clothes on so he can be more agile? Like, that's Luke is failing in that aspect.
He's wearing the same diaper pretty much that he's been wearing all this time.
Yes.
Ugh. I know. So it would have been just so fun to see him wear that little Beskar mail shirt. It would have been neat to see.
We still could see it.
Still could, I know. We're going to talk about that. But before we get to it, we've got some favorite scenes to go through. This being a very special episode, we actually pulled out 4 scenes that I think are just irresistible. I couldn't pick just one of them. We got to listen to some of the stuff again and relive these moments. So let's get into our favorite scenes. And you mentioned a lot of them in your opening monologue. A lot of these scenes, what makes this episode so magical. So we're going to go through a few of them here. The first one is Luke talking to Grogu when he says, I want to tell you about someone you remind me a lot of. I mean, this scene, I love the connection to Luke's history with Yoda. And I also love that he's kind of checking with Grogu. He's kind of testing Grogu's memory and knowledge. Does he know who Yoda is? Does he remember anything from the Jedi Temple? Does he remember anything about where he's from? Luke's kind of digging for some information there, which does lead to the memory sequence that we're going to talk about. But I liked it for that because the connection to Luke's history with Yoda, which is one of the most magical moments in Empire Strikes Back. I loved it for all of that.
No, I did too. And it was always a question in my head whether or not, I mean, if he was there, Grogu, that is, if he was there at the temple, surely he would have known about Yoda. I mean, Yoda being the only species we've seen of him besides Yaddle, but it's like, Yoda, at the very least, Yoda knew of Grogu. Whether or not Grogu spent that much time yet with Yoda, it just depends on how long he was there at the temple, which doesn't seem like it was a very, very long. But we don't know. It
seems like he was like a baby being taken care of at that moment.
Yeah.
But they said he's been trained before, and Luke says he's just remembering his training. So, yeah.
Well, because if he's 50 in this timeline, Clone Wars was 30-something years, so he was 20-something.
Oh,
so he was basically like an infant. Yeah, very much.
Yeah. Huh. I'm going to play the clip, and then I got one more question for you after that. Here it is.
All right, let's go for a walk. I want to tell you about someone you remind me of a great deal. His name was Yoda. He was small like you, but his heart was huge, and the Force was strong in him. He once said to me, "Size matters not." That's how he talked. He would speak in riddles. Have you heard anyone talk like that back home? Do you remember back home? Would you like to remember? Let me help you remember.
Oh, this was such a magical moment for me. I mean, we're going to talk about the whole sequence and everything there, but just Luke trying to connect with him, and the way he puts his hand on his head. You could see that little Grogu is struggling with his memory, and it's bothering him that he can't remember, and he doesn't know how to answer. He doesn't know what to say. And Luke, I think, picks up on that struggle, and that's when he rests his hand on his head, and you just see Grogu kind of like, and he gives in, and he trusts Luke, and then we go into the memory sequence. Just beautiful between the two of them.
Very much, yeah, totally. Lot to unpack there, for sure.
Yeah. We'll talk about some of it.
Yeah.
So I got a question here for you. Can Luke understand Grogu through the Force like Ahsoka did when she said, "Ahsoka, I can understand his thoughts and feelings"? Does Luke have the ability to do that, you think?
Yeah, I think that's how he's communicating with him, for sure. Yeah. I think when he was asking those questions, Grogu was basically saying either he doesn't know or doesn't remember, So that's why Luke, I think, was trying to hit on his memories a little bit, try to see his memories.
Yeah, because it's the way he was. That's why I asked the question, because he's like, "Do you remember anything? Would you like to remember?" It's almost like he's just guessing at what Grogu is thinking or saying. So that's why I was wondering, does he have as clear communication as Ahsoka did? That's why I wasn't sure. But.
I got the sense that he was answering him.
Okay.
Yeah, when he was saying, do you hear anybody talk like that where you're from? And he's like,
yeah,
I don't know. Like, he basically saying, I don't know. He's like, well, do you want to remember? So.
Okay. Well, the line in question, which I love that Luke brought up, was this.
Size matters not. Look at me. Judge me by my size, do you?
Yeah. For my ally is the Force. Yeah, that's the greatest, one of the greatest dialogues in all of Star Wars.
It is. It's the fact that Luke brings that line up is amazing, and the way Luke says, he was small just like you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Very, very fun. Very, very fun. We'll come back around to some of that stuff. So the next one I want to play is a clip from Mando and R2 when Mando is just talking to R2 and R2's chirping and beeping back. Same kind of question. I wondered if Mando is able to understand what R2 is saying, or is he just guessing? But I just love this moment because it is Mando, our brand new character that we all love, connecting with R2, an old-time favorite. And and we know they met before. They met at the season finale of Mandalorian Season 2. So I just like that Mando says, "Oh, hello, old friend," and they start talking. So here's part of that clip.
Hello, friend. I'm looking for Skywalker. I came to see the kid. Grogu?
There you go. Just a little moment, but it's R2's language. I talked about it earlier, why I love R2 so much. Just the way he chirps and whistles, and then every time he does that sound, it's like, is he telling him off? Is he bitching at that? Like, what's he when he does that little sound? But
nice.
Do you think Mando is communicating, or is Mando just talking and having no idea what R2 is saying?
I think he understands him. Yeah. I think he understands them. I think Din's a pretty smart guy. I think he understands the droids.
Or is he just kind of guessing at what R2's responses are, and he's just continuing the questions?
No, I think he understands them.
Okay.
I do. I think he would have been a little frustrated, more frustrated if he didn't understand him. You know, and maybe even said it like, "I don't know what you're saying."
Oh, that's
Where
a good
is
point.
he? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, that's a good point.
it felt like he was having a conversation with him.
But how cool is it to have Mando talking to R2 and them having this little interaction? It's awesome.
Well, look, when we first started doing the show and we saw the ads for The Mandalorian, if you would have said at some point he's going to come across R2, I would have said, get the hell out of here. So the fact that they're in the same scene is pretty incredible.
It's pretty cool. And it makes you question, like, man, how old is R2? This droid has been operating for a long time.
Oh, yeah. Long time.
I have an idea, like, because we saw the beginnings of C-3PO. We saw Anakin building him, but we've never seen the start of R2. Like, R2's been around for, what would be at least a minimal guess, at least a rough idea?
Well, his first introduction, he was already on the ship, Naboo, right? The Queen's ship. So that doesn't even mean that he was originally commissioned for that. Like, he could have been around years before that. So
yeah,
it really is no telling how long he's been around. So, because if he served for the Queen and just on that ship, he could have been there for generations. Who knows?
He's been through 2 generations that we've witnessed.
Yeah, and I'd love to know that. I'd love to know where what he did when he first came, got built. That would be pretty cool.
That would be a cool comic series or an audiobook or something. The history of R2. Where did he start? Who was his first master? That would be really, really fascinating.
Right.
Because I mean, you could have a rough guess with the series because he's an R2, and we know there's R5s and R4s and I don't know how far the series goes. So how many, alpha numerical letters there are in the.
I think R6 is the highest one so far I've seen.
It's the highest. So when you say R2D2, was there an R2D1, an R2D3, D4, D5, D6? Like, how many down the line through the alphabet? So it's
right.
I guess you could. Because was there an R1 series droid before the R2s came out?
There are R1s, yeah. They're all astromechs, right? So they all serve a similar purpose, which is to support and repair, and it's R2's a little unique because he does become a big part of the rebellion, so he's fighting back also, But normally their purpose is like what he did on Naboo's ship is if something breaks, he fixes it. Yeah. So he just happens to get thrown into the war at a certain time.
Yep. And he becomes quite heroic. I mean, he's been very heroic, yeah. He learns from Anakin, he learns from Luke, so he's kind of got influenced. Cool stuff. Love R2. All right, our third one up here is... This one tugs at the heart. This is Mando, I believe, talking to Ahsoka, and he's expressing that he misses Grogu and really wants to see him. And Ahsoka's trying to steer him away from it. Just this whole sequence really, really tugs at the heartstrings. And I think I got that a little bit later, but we're going to listen to the clip and then we'll talk a bit about it.
What is this place?
There's nothing now. But will someday be a great school. Grogu will be its first student.
I'd like to know how he's doing.
He's doing fine.
I want to see him.
I know you do. Let us take a walk. I warned you when we met that your attachment to Grogu would be difficult to let go of.
He was a Mandalorian foundling in my care. I just want to make sure he's safe.
There is no place in the galaxy more safe than here with Luke.
I don't understand why you're all right with Skywalker's decision to train the kid when you wouldn't.
Because it was his choice. I don't control the wants of others.
Then it's my choice to go and see him.
Of course. If that is what you wish.
All right.
Are you doing this for Grogu? Or are you doing this for yourself?
I want to give him this.
Why? So he will remember you.
No. As a Mandalorian foundling, he should have this. It's his right.
Foundling. Perhaps he is a Padawan now.
Well, either way, this armor will protect him.
If you are set on it, then allow me to deliver it.
I came all this way. He's right there.
Grogu misses you a great deal. If he sees you, it will only make things more difficult for him.
Make sure he's protected.
You're going to see me cry on the podcast, Vizsla.
Yeah.
Oh, that's some of that music that we were talking about. It's just, it can really, really tug at you. And that whole sequence, like, it's, I think we'll talk about it in the bounties, but it's just how bad Mando misses him and just wants to see him. I mean, that really lends to the connection and the bond that he built, taking care of him for the 2 full seasons, pretty much. We have no idea how much time actually passed, but he's not just a foundling to him. I mean, we saw it when he took his mask off at the season 2 finale. He's crying. He doesn't want to say goodbye. Like, it was tough. It was a tough scene to see him have to choose to not make it more difficult for Grogu.
Right. No, it's a fantastic scene with Ahsoka, and and again, like I said in my review, all the dialogue was just spot on. Like, everything that she at least I expected her to say, she did. I mean, that's about is this for him or for you? She's posing the right questions to him, not just saying, look, you can't see him because this reason. It's like, she made it be his decision to not go and see him, and that's exactly her role in this, is to open his eyes up a little bit to that. So it's very powerful, very, very powerful, and again, very well paced and very well, dialogue was just fantastic. So very emotional scene. throw in the music, and yeah, you're tearing up.
And Pascal's voice performance too. I mean, because he's like, I've come all this way. He's right there. Like you could hear the hurt in his voice. Like, oh man.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah. And then you see Baby Grogu reaching for him as the ship flies away. That just kills me.
Yeah,
kills me. All right, I've run away with 3 scenes here. I'll let you shoot up this last one here.
Well, mine by far was seeing Ahsoka and Luke in the same scene. Something that I never imagined would happen. You know, being a big fan of Ahsoka's throughout the years, obviously being a fan of Luke's, and knowing that they're in different eras, but all of a sudden now they're in the same scene, talking to it. I mean, it was just again, I never thought I would have turned on that episode this past week and saw that scene. And
you never thought you'd live to see the day.
No,
ever.
It's incredible. Yeah.
Cool. Well, here's that scene.
Good.
You've taught him well.
It's more like he's remembering than I'm actually teaching him anything.
Sometimes the student guides the master.
The Mandalorian was here.
As I told you, the two share a strong bond. And he brought him a gift.
Sometimes I wonder if his heart is in it.
So much like your father.
What should I do about him?
Trust your instincts.
Will I see you again?
Perhaps. May the Force be with you.
Ah, yes. You're so right. Such iconic characters from 2 different eras together on the screen. It's just, I've got a lot of that stuff coming up we're going to get into, but for this favorite moment, it is one of the best by far.
Yeah. I mean, if you would have told me this was going to happen in animation, sure, I buy that. But live action?
Yeah.
No way.
No way.
No way.
No way. And we're going to talk all about Luke. We're going to talk all about Ahsoka. Don't worry. It's just it was so magical.
Because there's a lot to unpack in that conversation.
Yes, there is. Which we're going to start to get into because it is time for the bounty section. Let's do that.
No disintegration. As you wish.
All right, this is where we're going to dive into the serious discussion of things and hopefully figure some stuff out. Let's start it off with Cobb Vanth. Let's bring it back to Cobb Vanth first. He wants to stay out of Tatooine political battles. Just keep his little town or free town safe and out of any syndicate squabbles. So I found that kind of interesting. Okay, like you know the character better than I do. Is that Cobb Vanth's kind of MO? Is, you know what, I'm just going to take care of my town, protect my people.
That's what it seemed like, you know, in the what it was hitting at in the books in the Aftermath series was, you know, he was part of this town and he found the armor and he found a way to fully protect it. Because at the time, you know, he was protecting it against Sand people, you know, the tribes of Sand people that attack. You know, we learned in this series that there are different MOs of tribes. You know, some are just straight up warriors and living the life. Some are out there killing and raiding and and taking, and it seems like he was always fighting those types of sand people. And he's definitely it seemed like an honorable, protector, and that's what I think we're getting out of him for sure in this. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he seems like a pretty decent guy, and he's a good shot. Except to this one point in time when he wasn't quite good enough. Cad Bane shows up, and I think, and this is what I want to ask you, but I think Cad Bane changes Cobb's mind on whether he's going to enter this confrontation or not, because we know Cad didn't kill him. It was a shot in the shoulder. So he's going to survive. I mean, his people he didn't get 5 shots to the chest like his deputy. It was 1 shot to the shoulder, and he was knocked out. So I want to ask you, do you think because of that, did this Cad Bane showing up and saying, keep your nose out of our business, the Syndicate's going to take over, you just keep to yourself here and we'll leave you alone, does that change Cobb Vanth's mind? Is he going to join the battle now and accept Mando's plea for help?
Totally, absolutely think so.
No way around it.
Yeah, no way around it, because I mean, he even said it to Cad before he shot him, was, we just keep the spice out of here. We don't need any more death and war and all this stuff. Keep it out of here. And obviously Cad's like, no, you guys need to accept that this spice is going to run. You keep to yourself, nothing's going to happen to you, but if you get in the way, obviously something will. So I definitely think that was a warning shot to his shoulder, whereas he took care of the deputy for stepping his nose in the wrong business, so
yeah
unfortunately he's not going to be cast in any other shows.
I mean, the deputy didn't even get his gun out. He shoots Cobb Vanth first and then shoots the deputy 5 times. Like, it's crazy how, we'll talk about it, but it's just crazy that, because this episode made sure to show us how good Cobb Vanth is,
right,
by taking out 4 pikes before they got a chance to fire off, and then he's no match for Cad Bane. It's just crazy to see the comparison.
That's right. Yeah, you knew something bad was going to happen as soon as Cad walked in.
Yeah. So is he going to be able to heal up in time to be able to join the fight? Will he bring his townfolk in with him? I mean, it's not like there's many people there to join the fight. I mean, Mando was like, I fought alongside your people against the Crate Dragon. You guys are tough. I don't remember there being a lot of townfolk there. There was a few, but it seemed like it was way more sand people.
Yeah, I don't think we saw that many. I think the thing about Freetown is not many people live there. They kind of live on the outskirts, out and about.
It's a very small town, isn't it?
Yeah, so they just come there for probably supplies and, go to the bar for a drink or whatever. But
yeah, you're right, because Cobb says to the bartender, he says, get the word out and get everybody to come into town.
Yes.
And for a meeting. So you're right, they're probably out on the outskirts.
Yes, yeah. So who knows how many there are. I mean, I think I remember, do you remember the scene where they were even talking about joining the Sand People? There was a pretty decent amount of people in that bar. When
the Sand People came to town and they were loading up all the missiles on the Banthas, yeah, there seemed to be quite a few people then.
Yep.
Yeah. So, okay.
Yep.
Good point. Well, we'll have to see what is up for Cobb Vanth in the future.
I mean, it doesn't seem like there's like a big garrison of people, but, there's some people.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we mentioned his name a few times. Let's talk about Cad Bane. I gotta believe, Vesla, I know he is one of your favorite characters from the Clone Wars. I gotta believe you squealed like a little kid when you saw him come onto screen. That's the first thing I want to ask you. Did you freak out when you saw him?
Absolutely freaked out. Yeah, it was early that morning. I was watching with my daughter, and as soon as, I mean, it was so weird because I completely remember as soon as, Cobb kind of pauses a second, and he looks up at the wind chimes, and I'm thinking, oh man, someone's walking in, and I was like, oh my gosh, is it going to be Cad Bane? And then as soon as they showed that silhouette, it's like, I knew it was him.
Did you know from the like he was little, he was tiny in the distance.
You can tell from the silhouette that it was a guy in a hat like Cad Bane. I was like, that's Cad Bane.
Trench coat, yeah.
Yes, I was like, that is Cad Bane. And my daughter was like, who? I was like, remember Cad Bane from Clone Wars? She's like, oh, yeah. Yeah.
So let's get into, because I'm with you. When I saw him, I was like, oh, is that? And then they zoomed up a little bit more, and I was like, oh my God, it is Kim. So I kind of had that moment too, and Lisa was beside me, and she's like, Cad, yeah, you remember Cad Bane? She was, yeah, oh my God, and she freaked out too. Like, we both had this mutual moment, so it was pretty cool. Now, my opinion, and I am so curious what you think, I think he looks absolutely amazing in live action. He was menacing. He was freaky. He was intimidating. Somebody you don't want to mess with. They had the outfit bang on. They had the guns. They had the hoses on his face or on his neck, whatever those things are. Everything was bang on. Even his voice was awesome to hear. I want to know what you think. That was my feeling.
Nah, it was Cad Bane. I mean, there's nothing about him that was that could have been any different to me. I was, as soon as he walked up, I'm just like, man, and I knew Filoni is like, he's got to sound like him, because, when Ahsoka came over, obviously Ahsoka doesn't sound like Ashley Eckstein, so it's getting used to a different voice for Ahsoka.
But how many years, we talked about it, it's enough years later that Ahsoka would have matured, because she's always sounded like a kid in the Clone Wars. So.
Yeah, no, but she's in Rebels though, so
yeah,
it's not that far,
not too far off. Yeah.
But it is different. I mean, it is different. You get used to Ashley Eckstein's voice. It's a little different. I think a lot of people are a little worried. The thought of Thrawn coming in, is it going to sound the same? And obviously, they've hired, sounds like the same actor, so he is going to sound the same.
Yeah.
But with Cad Bane, it's like as soon as I saw him, I'm like, gosh, he better sound like Cad Bane, and he sounds exactly like Cad Bane. So,
yeah, I think even better. I don't know. There's something about him.
Yeah, I mean, just the way his teeth were, and he looked, his eyes. That was Cad Bane. I mean, that was. I don't know how they can get any better.
He had his head dipped down, and the hat was covering most of his face for a lot of time until Cobb Vanth kept saying, well, who are you? And then he slowly lifts his hat, and you see those red eyes. I mean, that look, like I said, just menacing. Like, he is a menacing looking alien that you do not want to run into on any planet. And I was like, that they nailed that look, because I think that fits with who he's supposed to be and what you're supposed to feel when you do come across Cad Bane's path. You're supposed to feel that worry, and he made me worried. And it just...
Yes.
Especially
if you know about him, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's some people that haven't seen Clone Wars probably, and he just walks on. But, I mean, like you said, though, his appearance is pretty menacing. So...
Yeah.
You are worried already what he does and who he is, but man, if you know his past, yeah, you don't want to mess with this guy.
No. So I'm glad we're on the same page about his looks, because I want to ask you about this, because I did see a lot of people complaining online. There's a lot of articles, there's a lot of YouTube videos already about it. People are complaining about his skin color, his mouth and his teeth, and that he's not as thin as he should be. They're saying that he looked too heavy. And I'm just like, this is so ridiculous. And this is what we were talking about at the top of the show. Quit crying, all you whiners. You're the same people that cried about Luke not looking perfect, or Ahsoka's headpiece things not being long enough. How about be super appreciative that they brought these characters to life in live action and did the best they could when doing it? I mean, it's just ridiculous. Stop crying. You got Cad Bane in live action, and a really weird-looking alien, breathing, talking, shooting his guns, walking on the screen. I mean, there's nothing to complain about with that. And my response is that the last time we saw him in Clone Wars, which is quite a few years ago, how many years are we looking at right now between this and Clone Wars?
Close to 30 years.
Okay, 30 years. So Cad Bane is much older. I have no idea how long-lived his species is, but he's much older. Maybe his species' skin fades with age, like ours gets wrinkly. Maybe he's been through some tough scraps and he's scarred up a bit. He's getting older. He's putting on some weight. I can counter every single whining complaint there is out there. I can counter it with a response that should shut you up. He looks amazing as he is right here on screen.
Well, and you don't even have to do that. You simply just have to say one thing, which is what is fact, is that this is the first time we've seen him in live action. So this is what Cad Bane looks like. The animated version of Cad Bane is just the animated version of a live action character. So and they don't, and they as in Lucasfilm, when you watch the animated shows, they're not realistic looking characters, right? They're animated characters.
Look at Obi-Wan, look at Anakin. They don't look
Exactly.
like their live action counterparts exactly.
Yeah, and even them, they're a little bit more proportional. But look at someone like Dooku.
Yeah,
Like Count Dooku looks nothing like Christopher Lee, right? So
his face is so elongated in the Clone Wars
Yeah.
cartoon. Like, that's not human.
totally,
Yeah.
you know, even Vader looks a little different. You know, it's like the animated versions are just they're animated representations of what a live action person looks like. Now, again, some of them we haven't seen in live action, like Ahsoka, we didn't see at that point. You know, we can kind of Saul Guerrero was another one, right? That was the one that made a jump from animation to live action. So it's like even Saul Guerrero doesn't look that close. I mean, it's a little similar, but again, it's just because he's a little thinner in the Clone Wars. That's just, again, the animated representation. So it's not going to be 1-to-1. But this is what Cad Bane looks like.
Yeah.
This is not. He doesn't look like he does in Clone Wars. Now that there's a live action shot of him, this is what he looks like.
This is what I like how you put that. And you made a good point too, that it's animation. And if you look at animation throughout any history and throughout any country's version of it, animation is never realistic.
Right.
In a sense where they're trying to make it look like they're... Even though some of these cartoon characters came out before their live-action versions. I mean, look at Japanese animation. Look at anime. They're way out of whack.
Yeah.
There's nothing realistic about them. Are you guys crying and whining about those guys having impossible hairdos or heads much bigger than their bodies should be able to carry? No, you're not crying about that. You know, look at the Flintstones. Like, come on. Like Fred has no neck. Barney has no neck. Their head goes right into their shoulders. Like, do you cry and complain about that? No. Like, my gosh. Come on.
You know, if they were doing, you know how, you know, like Jedi Fallen Order, right? The game.
Yeah.
Which you haven't played yet. Have you played that yet?
I don't.
You still
I
haven't
have
played it yet.
I have it, but I have not.
But you know about games that have CG cut sequences in it, right?
So many games do, and I love that
The
stuff.
Last of Us, right?
Yeah.
You know, that type of animation, they are trying to be as realistic as possible.
Because it's CG representation. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if they were to do a Star Wars show like that, then you would see a more realistic looking Cad Bane probably, or a Duke. You know, they would make Dooku look more like Christopher Lee.
Yeah.
You know, Anakin would look more like Hayden Christensen.
Yep.
Obi-Wan would look like Ewan McGregor. You know, I mean, like, they were doing that. But, again, like you said, like, this is animated 3D characters.
Yeah.
So it's not going to look the same.
Yeah.
So
No, exactly.
just realize that live action trumps anything in animation form, in publication form, which means comics, right? Because comics, you have comics like Chrysanthemum was drawn in the comics first before he made the live action. So there's I mean, it still looks pretty accurate there, but I mean, Chrysanthemum now in the Book of Boba Fett is what he looks like.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you could even compare the Hutts. The Hutts in animation do not look like Jabba looked like.
That's right. That's right.
So,
yep. Yeah, totally. Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
So, but anyway,
I mean, 3PO doesn't look like 3PO.
No.
I mean, he doesn't look like a. I mean, yeah, there's definitely liberties there.
I know.
You know, so
anyway, that is us defending the live action stuff, and this is something that we will not let go of.
Cad Bane was perfect.
It was perfect.
Perfect.
Exactly. Like you said it. That is what Cad Bane looks like. Live action, that is him. So if you're going to complain, say, oh, the cartoons didn't quite draw him the same. That's what you should whine about, not the live action.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And there's a video out there, and I think X-Force 11, our friend, posted it, or sent it to me. I'll have to post it on the Facebook page. Because there's like YouTube videos where they said, oh, Cad
Side by
Bane
side.
fixed, and Cad Bane
Yes.
redone. And then some Star Wars fan, this girl, made a TikTok video, and she countered it saying, Cad Bane is not fixed. Cad Bane is redone in this person's version. He doesn't need to be
Yes, that's
fixed.
right.
He doesn't need to be fixed because this is him in live action. He's got faded skin. He's got a wider jawline. He's got whatever, but this is Cad Bane. So she basically says what you said. He doesn't need to be fixed. So
That's
anyway,
exactly right.
let's talk about Cad Bane. I wanted to get that off our chest and it's going to come up again with the Luke stuff, but talking about Cad Bane, he's still the fastest gunfighter there is. He beats Cobb Vanth even after we saw how fast a draw Cobb Vanth is, but he doesn't kill him. And like you said, he's just sending a message. So I thought that was kind of interesting because Cad Bane, why, unless he was told not to kill him, Cad Bane's kind of a killer. Like if he's in a gunfight, he's going to gun you down and win and walk away. So I found it kind of different for the character that he would shoot to let him live, to send a message.
Yeah, I think he's definitely sending a message, yeah, because he could easily killed him. Easily killed him.
Yeah.
You know, so I definitely think that, you know, that's why that, like you said, that's why that scene was shown in the beginning, to show Cobb's abilities. And then this is a way to show that Cad has some better abilities.
Yeah, like, okay, you thought Cobb was fast. He took out 4 pikes. You see how fast? Because
No.
I don't, like, did Cobb even get his shot off?
No.
After he watched it, he got his gun out, but then he was shot. I don't think he even got fired.
Yeah. He pulled, got shot in the shoulder, fell, and then in that time, the deputy never got his gun out.
Yeah.
I think the deputy was just shocked.
Yeah.
And then Cad just turned right around and killed him.
Blah, blah,
yeah.
blah. It's just crazy. Do you remember the species, Cad Bane? Do you remember what he's called? Or what his species is?
He's a Duro.
The Duro. Okay.
Duros.
Is there
Duro.
any other Duros characters in the Star Wars universe other than Cad Bane?
Yeah. If you remember the cantina in episode 4, there was a couple Duros talking to each other.
Oh wow!
They're
They're
in the white suits with the blue heads.
Yeah, and they weren't wearing any hats, so their head was very different shaped. So okay,
correct.
But
you
they
can see the whole.
Did they have those breathing tubes or whatever?
No,
those are.
No, that's unique to Cad.
And
That's
what are
unique to
those? Do
Cad.
you know? Because
I never researched that. I don't know. I don't know what they're doing to him. It might be an injury. Maybe I read there was some kind of injury because actually his head is covered. Also, he has the hat.
Yeah.
But he has like a plate on his head, and it kind of comes down his back, and then he has those tubes.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they're helping him breathe or not, but
they're altering his voice anyway.
Yeah, I did remember looking that up one time, but I kind of forgot. But there's a Duros in the game Battlefront 2 game during the campaign. And dang it, I can't remember his name either. He had a real cool name, but he was part of the rebellion.
Right.
A very popular character that's in there. And I believe he's going to show up at some point, I think, in either animation or live action too. But yeah, there's a couple Duros out there.
Okay.
That
Cool.
And when you're playing like online, on one of those online Star Wars games like Battlefront or something like that, there's times where you can pick to be a Duro. You know?
Cool. Well, going back to his gunfighting skill, I mean, if you think about what we've already witnessed with Cad Bane, he's taken out other characters that we know to be good gunfighters. Like he takes out Cobb Vanth here, and you remember at the end of Bad Batch, he faces down Hunter, who we thought Hunter was a real fast draw. And he beats Hunter, too. So it's great. They're really trying to sink it in that you got to worry
Fennec,
about this guy.
Right? Then he fights Fennec in Bad Batch.
He gets into a fist fight with her. Yeah, they're actually fighting.
Yes. Oh, you're talking about drawing
Weapons with. Yeah. Like, so he's outdrawn two other characters that we thought were pretty fast themselves. Really, really cool. Now, to me, it actually makes sense that the Pikes hired him for their dirty work, because that's pretty similar to how he was used as a character in the Clone Wars. People just kept, whoever paid him the most money, he just went and did the dirty work. He didn't care what it was. He didn't care about your side of the story. He didn't care about anything. He's, I'm getting paid to do this job. I'm going to do the job. That's Cad Bane, right?
That is Cad Bane. He's a gun for hire.
Yeah.
Just like all these guys are. And it's funny that he's talking smack about Boba, because he's basically the same thing in a sense, even though he's trying to acknowledge or make it seem like Boba's bad because he worked for the Empire, a few times. But they both were guns for hire, and they're both working for syndicates. Boba worked for Boba worked for Jabba.
Yeah.
Seems like Cad kind of hooked himself up with the Pikes. But, there's history there. Now, whether or not they dive into that, I don't know if they will. But there were unused episodes of the Clone Wars that showed a lot of history with Cad Bane. Cad Bane actually trained Boba a lot.
Jeez.
So there's history there, and it seemed, and I felt that history in what when he said that. Boba's a cold-blooded killer. Like, you could feel that there was some like tension there with Boba Fett. In fact,
right.
And I think we mentioned it on here. I think I mentioned it on here, but anyway, the dent that is in Boba's helmet in those unused Clone Wars episodes, Cad was the cause of that dent.
And do we know, like, what did he hit him with?
He hit him with a blaster because they had a drawing match.
Oh wow!
Because Boba basically didn't. I can't remember the situation, but he didn't agree with what Cad was doing, so he threatened him, and they both stood there like just like that, like an Old West kind of thing, and they both drew, and Boba shot him, and Cad shot him in the helmet because he had the armor, and so they both survived, obviously, but that was kind of the turning point of their relationship. I told you, I think I told you off air one time, but I believe we may get that scene in live action now at some point.
There might be flashback. Like, Filoni. He's going to want to show us this.
I know. I'm telling you, that's going to come. He's got to make that fully canon at some point.
Because if he didn't get to finish those episodes of Clone Wars, he's going to want to bring that to life.
Exactly. And that's what it seems like that's what he's been doing with, this show and Ahsoka. It's like it's finishing things in storylines that he wasn't able to finish. Yes.
Yeah. So it could come when Cad Bane shows up at the fight and Boba sees him, and Boba maybe doesn't expect to see him, and there's a bit of reaction there, and then poof, we go into flashback.
It's definitely possible. I think that's possible. I don't know if we'll get it this next episode, but I think somewhere down the line, I think it's going to happen.
Next episode better be 2.5 hours long.
Yes. Well, that's true, too. Yeah.
Jeez.
Shreve is the Duro's name in the game I was talking about. Shreve.
Cool.
Yeah. Shreve. Remember that name because he's a great character.
Okay. Well, speaking of great characters, let's talk about Ahsoka next. And we touched on this when we played your favorite scene, but seeing her show up is just wow. I did go through all the seasons of Clone Wars, and I love Ahsoka, and I love Ashley's take on her, but I am in love with Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka. She just oozes the character as I would imagine her to be at this mature stage in her life. Her performance, her voice, the way she speaks, it's all mesmerizing.
Yeah, again, I've come to love Rosario as well. I mean, Ahsoka in live action period is just a blessing. She's a massive character. She's grown up in front of everybody. She had a rough start in the Clone Wars. A lot of people didn't like her, but Filoni stuck with her. George stuck with her, and again, she has just developed into. I think she really hit her stride when she got to Rebels. and those scenes there, and being a part of that, just being a part of knowing who Anakin was and who he became. I mean, that's just incredible storytelling there.
Yeah. And
the fact that that she's now in a live action character and about to have her own show. I mean, it's just. And Rosaria is doing a good job. She's doing a really good job with her.
She's got this voice. It's so sultry in this weird, alien way. There's just something about her performance. She's so, I don't know if laid back is the right, but she's got this air of wisdom about her, and it's just, there's something. She's just amazing. I don't know that she's amazing. Now, one of the amazing things that I liked is, like we mentioned, R2 before, seeing Ahsoka alongside R2 in live action melts my heart, because we know that R2's been around. He was with Anakin. He was all around her in the Clone Wars, so we saw that. But to see her with R2 again in live action melts my heart.
Yeah, no, that's pretty neat, because she's got a big history with him, as people know from the Clone Wars. Yeah.
So just being there. I don't know. I can't remember if she puts her hand on him or what, but it's just, I
think she does. She laughs at what he says. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's definitely a relationship there.
Yeah, there's a friendship there. It's just so cool. Now, to go alongside what you were talking about with your favorite clip, seeing her beside Luke for the first time in any version, because we never saw this in animated version at all. So to see her beside Luke is the most magical moment ever, I think. One of top 2, top 3 in Star Wars history. Knowing her connection to his family, to the Skywalkers, when she says to Mando, "I'm an old friend of the family." And then later she says to Luke, "You're much like your father." Oh my gosh. I want more of them together. I hate that she walks away. We'll talk about that in a second, but I want so much more of Luke and Ahsoka. I want him to ask her about Anakin. I want her to tell stories about how heroic his dad was, and before he turned to the dark side. I want all of that.
If I were to have, and this kind of is, if I were to have one and only one negative thing to say about this episode, it would be this. And it would be that, and maybe we'll get it, but we haven't seen the first time they met, because obviously they had met before, because they're familiar with each other. Because very much like you said, like, I want to see his reaction to her saying, "I was a Padawan of your father."
Yeah.
Like, I fought next to your father
for years. Yeah.
And then I even fought your father. I fought Darth Vader in, on Malak, or whatever system. I can't remember that planet that was. It's like, those are powerful stories and memories that Luke, does he know those things now? I don't know. It feels like there's some understanding that she knew Anakin, but how much, like you said, does Luke ask those questions?
Yeah. Because
obviously the first time they would sit down and probably talk for days, he would have so many questions. And I feel like, again, one knock is that I think we've just missed that meeting and those conversations, and I want to see those. I want to know how much Luke asks of her. I want to know how much Luke learns from her about Anakin. That's the only thing I wish, because it feels like we skipped that part going into this episode.
I'm so with you. It makes me wonder how much time, like how much earlier before this scene did they meet?
Yes,
because to me, I get the feeling that it wasn't that much time. Like, she meets Mando and Grogu, and then she's like, go to this Jedi temple point, call out the signs, see if anybody reaches out. Obviously, she finds out that Luke reaches out, and Luke comes and rescues them. But where does that come into? Where does she show up and say, like, "Oh, hey, I'm Ahsoka"? Or did she meet Luke before that moment? Like, did she know that Grogu going to that temple point would call Luke? She already knew that because she knows of Luke. Like, where is the point in time that they met?
Again, yeah, that's a great point. We don't know when she knew that Luke was a Skywalker. Yeah. Luke was a Jedi out there. Like, she probably had to have, if she paid attention at all to the rebellion, maybe she had heard about this possible young Jedi, trying to rebuild but you're right. Did she know about Luke before Mando came across her? It's possible. But you would think that, that would kind of make sense if she says, well, Grogu needs to go out to the Seeing Stone and basically ask to be found. And maybe she did know that if anybody was going to find him, it would be Luke. So it's possible she had already met Luke, and that is completely. But I hope we get that story, somewhere, even if it's a comic. I don't care. I hope we get that story of that first meeting that they have, and then there's another question. To be honest, I don't think it's on here, but why is she there? Why did she? Is she just checking in on Grogu? Like, why is she there?
Why did she show up? Because it seems like she wasn't there very long.
Doesn't seem like it.
But she seemed to know everything. She knew about the Jedi Temple, what's happening there. Grogu's going to be the first student. She knew all the information. So Luke has obviously told her what's going on and what his plans are. So maybe...
It's possible maybe Luke, once he got Grogu, maybe he reached out to Ahsoka and was like...
Grogu would have told him about her, probably.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe he reached out to Ahsoka saying, hey, do you know anything about Grogu? And maybe he got some download from her about the situation before he took her to where he took them to where they are.
Well, and I mean, she's an ex-Jedi herself, so if he tells her anything, she's going to want to go check it out. Oh, you're building a Jedi temple. I'm going to come see that. Oh, you've got Grogu. I'm going to come see what you're doing. Like, it seems like she was there for a little while because R2 calls her when Mando shows up. He doesn't call Luke. He calls her to say, hey, Mando's here. And then she shows up, right, to intervene. So she's been there for... And I guess if... We'll talk about it a bit. When her conversation with Luke happens, he's like, oh, will I ever see you again? So that, to me, seems like she's been there for a little bit. She has spent some time with him and Grogu on this planet, and now she's leaving, and that's why... Because if she just showed up, I don't know, I don't see why he would ask, well, am I ever going to see you again? She had to have been there for some time.
Yeah,
so, like you saying, I think equally as much as wanting to see his reaction to finding out she was his dad's Padawan, I also want to see her reaction to finding out that Anakin had a son. Because we never saw that either. Like, Anakin has kids?
Right.
What?
Yes. So at some point she has to learn that, he is a Skywalker and he is the son of Anakin. Yes.
I want to see her reaction to that, too.
Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah, that's how great it is to see them on screen together. There's definitely history there, like the first meeting and those first questions. Like, how do they do that? I'd love to see that.
Yeah. So I'm with you. If there was anything to complain about, it's that we didn't get enough of that. But you got to think about it. We're Book of Boba Fett. That's an entirely different story. I'm surprised we got all of the stuff that we did get on a Boba Fett episode. So if they added more of that in, I think we'd need a whole new episode.
Right. Yeah, totally. Absolutely.
All right. So the one at the end of your favorite scene there, when he says, am I ever to see you again? The way Luke looks up to her, he looks at her almost like a mentor. And he's asking for advice. What should I do with Grogu? He's looking at her and he's talking to her like she is a mentor. And it was making me think, how much older is she than him right now? What's the age difference between them at that point? Because Luke, from what I read online, Luke is supposed to be about 29 in this sequence here.
Yeah. Yeah, he was born in 19... Yeah, so he's about 29. You're right. He's about 28, 29. She's about 16 or 17 years older than him.
Okay.
So, because when she's introduced in the Clone Wars, the first episode, the movie that we saw her in, I believe she was 14 years old, maybe. She was a young teenager, 13, 14 years old.
Is what she was, yeah.
So by the end of the Clone Wars, she was 17, 18, so then 30 years later, she's, late 40s.
Which we talked about on the show before, which is perfect because that's what Rosario is in real life. So it's perfect that she age matches
Yes.
where Ahsoka's supposed to be. So that's really cool.
Yes. So she's about 20, close to 17, 18 years more older than Luke.
Okay, so and this ties into our question we were already talking about is how much have they discussed? Because he's asking her questions. He's asking her for advice. So he obviously knows her experience as a Jedi and her experience with Obi-Wan, her experience with, that's another story. He's like, what? You know Obi-Wan? You went to war with Obi-Wan? Like, I only know Obi-Wan as the old hermit.
That's
like,
right.
Holy, tell me those stories. So he obviously knows about all of that, and that's why he's looking up. He's looking up to her like he looked up to Obi-Wan. Here's his mentor. I have all this knowledge I can learn from you.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how much specifics he has or knows, but he definitely knows. He should already know about how much interaction she's had with these characters and these people and the history of the Clone Wars, and so she's lived through all that, which is just crazy to think that he's only met Obi-Wan and he's met Yoda, and he obviously technically, again, right, he's the last Jedi. Right? There's no other Jedi. Ahsoka was a former Jedi, but she's not a Jedi anymore. So, but this person now is the most experienced person he's met.
Yeah.
Right? So you got to believe that he's looking for some kind of advice and guidance, even though she's never made knighthood. Right? She was never a Jedi Knight either. She was just a Padawan still when she walked away. So, but the fact that she lived through the Clone Wars and she's been through the original Jedi Temple and all that stuff. So,
and she trained under Anakin and Obi-Wan.
Yeah,
she's a generation older than he is.
Mm-hmm.
She's got all of that experience.
Yeah, technically, I'm sure he's thinking you need to start this temple with me.
Yeah,
but she obviously is still not going to commit.
Makes you wonder if he did propose that to her.
I'm sure he did.
Yeah, maybe he got advice from her on how to build it, and that's where R2 got the ideas.
Yeah, maybe.
Who knows?
Yep.
Well, let's talk about her and Mando for a second here, because like one of our favorite scenes, she sways Mando from seeing Grogu, saying it's going to make things more difficult for him. And Mando listens to her, and like I was saying at the favorite scene there, that was so heartbreaking. As much as it had to be for Mando breaking his heart to walk away, and I literally did cry in that moment. The couple times I watched it, that made me tear up all 3 times, and it just that whole she sways Mando away because she thinks it would be hard for she doesn't want Grogu to be forced down a path where he's going to choose to not be a Jedi. Like, she's obviously trying to do that. And I was surprised that Mando listened to her, especially after he says, I've come all this way. It's gut-wrenching.
Well, I think it was good on her part to make it basically not tell him no, but make him decide for himself that it was a bad idea, right? And, he doesn't understand the attachment part of the Jedi stuff, and obviously Ahsoka does. So, you have to honor that a little bit, which that's a whole another conversation. I think we're probably going to get into it here at the end, but the whole attachment thing has always been kind of up in the air for me.
Yeah, we got that coming up. Don't worry.
Yeah, but she just made him understand the situation. I think Mando made the right decision.
Yeah. Tough one. Really, really
it is tough.
I mean, is Mando going to get to see him again? I don't know. We don't know at this point right now, but
I think I know.
Oh, yeah? Well, let's talk about the moment where she walks away. She leaves, and Luke wants to see her again. And I just have all these questions. Will she be back at some point? Will she help with the Jedi Academy? Will she ever come back to being a Jedi and join Luke? Like, is she? First question: is she even going to be back? We probably won't see her again until her show.
Right.
Is the feeling I got with the way she walked away. I don't know.
I with the success of bringing Luke back, and obviously with this episode, as we'll see, I mean, he looks fantastic. I think this is kind of hinting at the point that, as an aspect of saying it's possible Luke will show up in Ahsoka's series. Like, this is kind of like the same thing. Boba helps Mando. Mando gets his own, or Boba gets his own series, and Mando shows up. It's almost like Ahsoka helps Mando. She's going to get her own series. Mando could help, but also I think Luke can come help, because we know what Ahsoka's mission is. Ahsoka is trying to find Thrawn and Ezra, and she's probably going to need help. We believe that Sabine's going to be there, and maybe even a Rex, but I think it's possible Luke comes and helps her. So I do think they'll see each other again. I think we'll see them together again. I think this is too big of a historic moment to just leave it as that.
Yeah, it's like the biggest tease ever.
Right. But to answer the other questions, is I do not think she'll be back with him as a Jedi or looking to be a Jedi.
She won't even help with the Academy.
I don't think so. At least we haven't seen or heard any kind of hint of that. Now, I will say, if you fast forward all the way to the end of Rise of Skywalker, we do hear Ahsoka's voice, right?
Right.
So something happens to her. A lot of people are speculating, well, maybe you don't have to be dead to talk to Rey in that moment. But I believe that every one of those people are deceased that are saying something to Rey. So at some point between now and the Rise of Skywalker, I think something happens to Ahsoka.
That's a sad story.
It is. Now, when that happens and how we see that, will we ever see it? Who knows?
Well, like you said, Ahsoka, we've talked about it before on the show, how many of these characters, Ahsoka, Grogu, they don't appear in anything in the future beyond this timeline. So
that's right.
Something's happened to everybody. Yeah.
Now, we've said the same thing about characters in Rebels, right? Like Kanan, which we understand his fate. I'm not saying to you because you haven't seen his fate yet. But Ezra, obviously we know Ezra's still alive because that's what's happening in this show, in the Ahsoka show. So, but again, those are Jedis that kind of alive during the Civil War that we didn't see ever or hear about. So same thing with Ahsoka. I mean, she could still technically be out there for a long time. We just no one ever really hears or sees her.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there is leaving the galaxy too and going out past beyond the known space. Like, there's lots of things.
Lots.
All right, let's talk about Luke Skywalker because we got some things to talk about with him. Similar stuff to what we talked about Cad Bane, but also some other story elements. So let's jump right back into the debate. Let's shut down all of the complainers right now. My opinion, Vizsla, he looked amazing this time around. Nearly exactly as he should look at this point in the timeline. I am so satisfied with what they did with him this time. I would be completely content if this is what they used going forward for any Luke stories, because we know there's a rumor out there about a Luke and Grogu series, or a Luke series. They just basically used this as the testing ground to see if they could do it. And to me, it was a massive success. This is my Luke Skywalker a few years after Return of the Jedi. This is his point where he is now. And I am completely happy that they changed actors this time around. It's not the same guy from the end of Mandalorian. It's a different actor. I posted an ad on our Facebook page. This actor, if you look at him, he does have a Mark Hamill look to him. So he's obviously a young guy. He obviously can do the physicality of it. I would be content, Vizsla. I would be completely content that if this is the type of Luke we get going forward. Yes, they could have, if they're going to bring in a new actor, why didn't they just get Sebastian Stan, who virtually can look like him without much graphics done to it? But whatever. I'm satisfied. I want to know what you thought.
100% satisfied. It was incredible. Every aspect of it, when he turned his face, it always looked like Mark Hamill. It looked like Mark Hamill from Return of the Jedi, and it was way better than Mandalorian season 2. Even the voice was still spot on Mark Hamill, and I don't think they used Mark Hamill. At least what I'm reading is that they used.
Yeah, that's the next point. So.
Oh, okay.
But,
yeah. So.
Yeah.
But no, he looked fantastic. And could they do a series around him? I think there's no doubts now that you could do a whole series about Luke if you wanted to. And at this point, it'd almost be a disservice to hire Sebastian Stan. This is the way Luke should look. I was going to bring this up on my show, but I could bring it up here. But I read somebody post on Twitter about how Lucasfilm is approaching these recastings, and they made a good point in saying that if you think about when a character shows up, so let's just say the original trilogy with Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, Harrison Ford, and their likeness, right? And that what they're doing is if they're going to if they're recasting them, they're only recasting them as younger versions of them. Hence, an Alden Ehrenreich, right, for Solo.
Yeah.
That's the younger version of Han. This is what he looks like. We haven't seen a younger version of Luke yet, but obviously there's rumors that there's a younger version of Luke in Obi-Wan coming, right? So it kind of holds true. You hire, a Ewan McGregor. Even at that point, Alec Guinness has passed away in a way, so you wouldn't cast him anyway. But Ewan McGregor is the younger version of Obi-Wan. So it's like, basically that at a certain point in time when a character is cast, anything before that, there's a different cast member. But anything forward, you've got to keep that likeness, as we've seen with Luke, right? As we haven't seen this. Well, we saw kind of Carrie Fisher, right? Because we saw her in The Force Awakens. That flashback that was after was Carrie Fisher. So again, rumors are that if we see Han, it'll be Harrison Ford likeness, not Alden, that's getting cast in that. So, I think what I'm getting at is that I don't think they would cast anybody else to play Luke. I think you have to go this route to make sure it looks like Mark Hamill.
Yeah, for current and forward timelines, but for prequel era, for younger versions, you can cast younger.
Yes.
And you made a good point that I'm surprised we've never actually brought it up. All these people complaining about casting Alden for Han Solo, all these people complaining about the Luke Skywalker that didn't work so well in The Mandalorian and whatever. Nobody complained when they cast Ewan McGregor to play a younger Obi-Wan. It's not Alec Guinness. Why didn't you cry about, why didn't you use Alec Guinness and just younger technology or de-aging technology? Nobody complained, and yet they did the exact same thing. You hired a completely different actor to play a younger version of a beloved character. It was no problem back then, so why is it an issue now for any other character?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and you could have made the argument somewhat, I guess, but no, because that was too close of a timeline. I was thinking of Tarkin, but that was too close a timeline. You had to make him look like Peter Cushing. But yeah, I'm trying to think of, the only one that I can think of that could that could possibly counter that argument, which I think is possible, but maybe not. And I can't remember her name. I used to know her name, but there was one scene in Return of the Jedi where you saw Mon Mothma, right? And you saw that person playing Mon Mothma. They recasted Mon Mothma, obviously, with a younger woman in Episode 3, but those scenes ended up being deleted. And her name was Guinevere Riley.
Yeah.
They used the same person in Rogue One. Now, Rogue One, yes, is before Return of the Jedi, but it's only before Return of the Jedi by like 4 years. So
different actress.
Still different actress, understandable. But that is somebody I do think could possibly show up beyond Return of the Jedi. Because Mon Mothma takes control of the New Republic, right?
Yeah.
She's the Chancellor. So, and I, for part of me, believe that we would see her in Mandalorian at some point.
I know, you
maybe
mentioned
not.
it a few times. Yeah.
Maybe they won't get into the political side of that show. So, but that would then kind of counter the argument, right? That because they obviously wouldn't bring in the woman, because I believe the woman that played her in Return of the Jedi might have passed away. Right. But even if not, she's much older, and I don't know if you would bring her back and de-age her kind of thing. You know what I mean? So,
well, the woman they have is a dead ringer for her. Like
she is.
Yeah.
She is, but then it goes as far as, well, which characters matter and maybe which characters don't matter as much, right? Because they obviously recasted Dodonna as well, right, in Rogue One. He's different than he is in A New Hope, which is literally right next to each other. So you would technically, you've kind of killed that a little bit, right? Because General Dodonna in A New Hope is clearly a different person than the one in Rogue One. So you did it with Peter Cushing. Why didn't you do it with Dodonna? Right? Making him look exactly the same. So you clearly are taking liberties with some characters, but not maybe necessarily the franchise characters, I guess. I don't know.
Heck, I mean, sticking under Disney, they did it in Marvel. Iron Man 1, Damian Rhodes was a completely different. It was Terrence Howard. Iron Man 2, 3, all the Avengers movies, it was... what's his name?
Don Cheadle.
Don Cheadle. Completely different actor that doesn't even look the same at all.
No.
Nobody complained about that. Yeah. And he took over the role, and he was a pretty major character.
Well, they recasted Bruce Banner as well, right?
Yeah, from the solo Hulk movies into the Avengers movies, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what? We can even... This bugs us so much, we can get real picky. They've recasted Chewbacca. The guy who played Chewbacca passed away. They brought in a guy 30 years younger to play Chewbacca now, so Chewbacca could be more agile and running around.
Yeah, but he does look the same, so that's okay. But I do think there's. Look, I was one of the ones that was somewhat complaining about, casting a different Han Solo because, there had at some point there's some. I don't know. It's just, when I get it that Han Solo in A New Hope is, I think he's early 30s at that point. Solo takes place 10 years before that. So in my mind, it's not that big of a gap to say that he changed that much in 10 years. Yeah. Now, if you want to cast him as a 10-year-old, that's something different. Yeah. You look a lot different than you do when you're 10. But if you're 20 to 30, you're not really that much different. That's why I was like, man, I wish, and I believe that if this de-aging technology was as good as it is now when they did Solo, I believe they would make Han Solo look like Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
Maybe not play Harrison. Maybe Harrison Ford wouldn't play the character, but they do what they did with Luke here. Cast a young guy that looks like him and then just do some de-aging features.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people would have loved Solo if it was Harrison Ford, technically.
I think it would have changed a lot, yeah.
It would have.
Well, even like...
But then you would have had to do the same thing with Donald Glover, right? You would have had to make him look Billy D.
Donald Glover doesn't look anything like Billy Williams. Not even close. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and it's also like, the only thing I question about Solo is I remember I showed you the picture. I think I posted on the Facebook page that other actor that I thought looks more like Harrison Ford, who even played a young Harrison Ford in another movie, and he's a dead ringer for Harrison Ford. That is Harrison Ford when he's 20 years old. Whoever this actor was.
That's who they should have casted. Absolutely,
yeah, they should have.
Yes,
And
he even studies Harrison Ford. I think he's done scenes of Star Wars on his YouTube channel, and he sounds exactly like him.
See, that's crazy. I didn't even know he had a YouTube channel, that guy.
Yeah, well, yeah. Look it up. I don't know if he has a channel, but he posted something on YouTube where he's doing scenes from Empire and Jedi.
Oh man!
And I'm telling you, it is freaking phenomenal.
I'll have to look him up.
That's why a lot of people are like, "Man, they should have casted him.
They should have cast him." Yeah, and then there might not have been as much issue.
Right.
Yeah,
because no one really complained about Donald Glover.
A lot of people loved him because he
Lando.
played it so well.
Yeah.
Oh well. All I can say to finish this off is that I've got nothing to complain about. They've done such a good job. I am happy with this Luke Skywalker. Give me an 8-episode series of Luke, and I'm totally happy.
Totally.
Yeah.
I'm all for it too.
Let's make canon in live action. Him building the Jedi Temple, him training Grogu, him training a young Kylo Ren. Let's see that entire story. Why he goes off solo and disappears.
Yeah, and what's funny is that I keep hearing Lucasfilm saying, once this sequel trilogy is done, we're done with the Skywalkers. Like, the Skywalker saga is over, and here we are with Luke Skywalker still being part of Star Wars.
They're recanting, man.
Yes, they are.
All right, well, you brought it up about this maybe not being Mark Hamill, and I've been seeing a lot in the media that it wasn't Mark Hamill even used this time. He didn't do any acting. He didn't even use his voice. It was all created digitally with this new voice software that they have where they could take all of the previous recordings from the late 1970s and 80s of Mark Hamill's voice, train this program, and then make it speak whatever lines they want, and it sounds like Mark Hamill because it learnt his voice. And then they're saying that because they hired this new actor, Mark Hamill wasn't even used as a body double or anything. And yet, Mark Hamill was in the credits for this episode. So I'm confused. Did they use him or did they not use him at all?
I don't, at least what I'm hearing, I'm reading the same thing you are. I'm reading that they didn't use him at all, which makes sense. I think, and I was quite worried about this, in the future when, God forbid, unfortunately, when something happens to James Earl Jones, like, how are they going to is Vader going to keep sounding like James Earl Jones? And it sounds like this is how they do that. They capture a portion of his voice, and then the computer can spit out any kind of sentences with his voice. And I think that's fantastic, because Vader will always live on as James Earl Jones, because he just doesn't sound the same when it's not him.
Yeah, you can't do it without him.
You can't do it. And I think this is the same thing where, gosh, you got Mark's voice from Jedi, and you're just able to, because it's not his voice from now, because he does sound different now.
He's a lot scratchier now, yeah. More gruff.
So it's good that you've got his younger voice and it can do it. And so, but I think the reason why it's credited is still his likeness. I think there's probably things in his contract that says, if you use my likeness, it's still Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
But
he is Luke Skywalker. He forever is. Nobody knows Mark Hamill as any. Maybe the Joker. Maybe people think of him as the Joker, but as an actor, it's Luke Skywalker. There's nothing else as an actor Mark Hamill to be. I've seen the odd movie of him, not in Star Wars, and it's really weird. He's Luke Skywalker. That's it.
Yeah.
But so let me ask you. What is this planet that he is on with Grogu? It's very alive. It's full of life and force energy, similar to Dagobah. It's perfect for the training. Do we know what planet it is, though?
We don't know what planet it is.
Oh, okay. I was wondering if there was something I missed or something you knew secretively that I didn't know.
No.
Any guesses?
No. I mean, never seen it before. Could it be... is it called? I think it's called Ajar Kloss, which is the planet in The Rise of Skywalker. At the very beginning, where Rey's training with Leia.
Oh,
It looks
that's a similar look
to that. So I thought at first it could be that. Wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't. But, you know, I mean, we're going to talk about it here in a second about the Academy thing. But
it could be the planet where he trained Leia on in the flashback scene of him training Leia.
yes, it could be that too. Is it the same one that he's training Kylo or Ben?
Yeah.
I think that's up for debate because a lot of people, that is a topic of conversation right now,
Yeah.
is whether or not it's the same planet. The thing about it is what I do know is that the planet that he's got his academy on was apparently secret. It's weird that on this, that I don't know. I'm kind of confused on how Mando found, like, how did he know where to go?
R2 was signaling him. Do you remember
Oh,
when?
is that
Remember
it?
when Mando flies in? R2's got his little radar thing up.
Yeah, but once he gets to the planet, yes. But how do you know what planet to even go to?
Yeah,
And
I'm guessing that
And did you
Luke-
realize he knew his name was Skywalker? So, at some point, I don't know where Mando learns that.
they must have communicated after
Yes,
he took Grogu. Yeah,
yes, somehow I think that they had to have, but I don't know. I don't know how.
yeah.
But you would have think that he would have, if he knew his name, you would have think maybe he would have said it when he got Grogu, like I'm Luke Skywalker, you know, kind of thing. But he never does say that.
But I mean, Mando's also the bounty hunter. Maybe he just asked around. He just said, "Hey, do you guys know a Jedi looks like this?" And we're like,
Yeah, I don't know.
"Yeah, that's Luke Skywalker."
I don't know. Little things like that, I still have questions about, though. You know, how does he know? How did he know his name was Skywalker? How do you know what planet to go to? Because again, if it's secret, then again, Ahsoka knew about it too. So
It's all this dialogue happening off screen that we are not privy to.
we're not privy to. Yes.
Yeah. Well, again, we got so much this episode. I'll let these little tidbits slide. The curiosity is there. Yeah, I don't know if they'll ever give us those answers because the story's already moved on. But still,
Yep.
these are little tidbits I'd like to hear. And if maybe is there a book of Boba Fett companion book that comes out and fills in all these gaps? You know,
Probably.
something like
Yeah,
that.
there'll probably be something. Yeah.
Cool. Let's talk about the Jedi Academy. I know that you were in that moment just about, and I just want to say, holy crap. We get to see the very beginning of the Academy Luke builds. We only know of it from books. I don't know if it was in the comics, but I've only read it in Legends books, not even canon books. So the fact that they're rebuilding this alive for us to visually see Luke's Jedi Academy, I'm just blown away by that, the start of it. Are we going to see more of it? Are we going to see the full Academy one day? Like,
Is it though? That's a good question. Is it the same one?
or is this just a training center, the very beginnings of something?
Right, because again, I have to stick to my guns, right, and say that if you see it in live action, it trumps kind of anything you see in publication or anything like that. So right now, the only way we've seen it, well, actually, we've seen it in live action because we've seen it in flashbacks in The Last Jedi and in The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, but
So-
all we see is the inside of a hut in those flashbacks. We don't really see.
No, we see it burning in the distance. When he's
I
out there with
remember
R2. There's a shot outside before we see him inside with Kylo of the temple in the background.
I can't.
There's some
remember what
good
the temple
shots of it.
looks
You
like.
can see them online, and we should probably post them maybe in the Facebook page. But there's definitely good shots of live action. So, is that the same as this? Because, granted, here's the thing: is that we know from the books, the comics, that he doesn't take Ben there. And he says this to Rey. Remember, he says, I took Ben and a handful of students and started training them. And that was when Ben was around 10 years old. So at this point, Ben's only like 4. So there's still about 6 years before he actually starts training Ben and these handful of students. So does he is he starting with Grogu now, and is he training up until that point? Because it made it sound like, at least Leia made it sound like he wasn't training anybody until he started training Ben. So
yeah.
So is and that facility that you see in the comics. Now, granted, Ben's much older. You know, by the time Ben that incident happens where Luke is about to kill him and Ben turns on him. You know, that's like I think that's 4 or 5 years before Force Awakens.
So that's like 15 years from now.
So that is
Close to it.
20 years from now.
Yeah.
Yes, about 20 years from now. So Ben's like 24 or something like that, right, when this happens. So again, at that point, the temple is built and all that stuff. So does it continually build from this point where we see this, or is there a temple he discovers when he's looking around again, and that's where he takes Ben and the students?
And he moves the school there, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not convinced yet that this is the same thing. It could be. But again, in those images that you see, the land is much flatter. It's not like mountainous like this is. But again, I take liberties on that because it could, you know, whatever we see here is what we see. But again, we see it in the live action with The Last Jedi and stuff like that. So to me, it doesn't look the same.
I just looked up a picture of that scene in The Last Jedi where Luke's hunched down with R2 as it's burning in the distance. And it actually is up on a hill a little bit like this thing was. But we're in like a bamboo jungle in this show, and in that image, it looks like the forest has been cut down. The land is very rough around the temple, and you just see a bunch of stumps on the ground. So it looks like the forest has been cut down, but it is on a very small hill, and it looks yes. like it could be the same. So they've cleared the forest out around it, and that's the visual we get. But the one thought I have, not so much to counter what you're saying, but in this episode, Ahsoka does tell Mando, this is going to be the future school, and Grogu is the first student. So she says, this is the new school. So
right.
that to me says, this is the academy. This is at least the beginning of it. So whether he starts it here and moves to a new location later, or this is the beginning of, this is just the first rough grass hut they made, and later as it becomes a bigger thing, he builds it out of stone and concrete or whatever materials they use. Like I'm just thinking this is the start of it. It's the rough, you know.
Well, what my counter to that is is what we're going to talk about at the end, so I won't talk about it now.
Okay. All right, cool. Anyway, still holy crap moment that whatever it is, we're seeing the beginning of it here on this episode. It's Luke's something. Whatever he's starting, we got to witness it, and that's just like, whoa, awesome.
Yes.
So I think probably one of the most amazing nostalgic sequences was when he was training Grogu, and he says, and Grogu wasn't quite understanding how to jump, and Luke says, let me show you something. And he sticks him in the backpack, and off he goes, running through the forest, jumping and flipping. I just about fell off the couch with excitement because that is simply the best connection to his time with Yoda in Empire Strikes Back that we could get. He's virtually running almost the exact same pattern, or whatever you want to call it, gym routine, as he did with Yoda, and now he's got baby Grogu on his back. Wow. It was so fun. Yeah, that
was pretty awesome, because that's easily one of my favorite scenes of all Star Wars is Yoda and Luke together running around and him teaching him and all that stuff. To see that again was pretty cool. He's now the master teaching the guy on his back
Yeah.
versus the other way around. Yeah,
Exactly. Grogu's just squealing the whole time, and
yeah,
and then he climbs the bamboo to the top of the forest, like you mentioned earlier, and gives us that spectacular view of the planet. And the music kicks in, and he's like, "The force is all around you. Feel it, breathe it." And both of them close their eyes and just take it all in. Oh man, magical, just magical. And then another really cool scene is we get Luke practicing with his lightsaber in front of Grogu. Grogu's busy practicing, balancing on the bamboo there, and Luke is practicing with his lightsaber. And I thought that is just cool to see, because we saw him fight Darth Vader in Return of the Jedi, but he really didn't know what he was doing yet. He was just swinging wildly. And then we see him in The Mandalorian Season 2, and he comes in and he looks like he's all kind of trained up. And he takes those dark troopers out like nobody's business. So it's just cool that from that moment here, we see him practicing and we see him going through the motions. It's like, whoa, okay, that's something we've never seen Luke do. It's just lightsaber practice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was pretty neat. Because he is a lot more redefined, a lot more refined in the end of Mando Season 2 versus what we saw like in Return of the Jedi, like I said. So
yeah.
So obviously no one really taught him that. He must have. I mean, he easily could have found some holocrons or something that possibly could help him, train. Because he was, he looked like an old school prequel Jedi fighting those droids.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. But yeah, it's pretty neat to see him lighting his saber up. Yep.
Do you think Ahsoka maybe showed him a thing or two?
That's true too. That's quite possible. That is actually possible.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh. Okay. I got one big question left about Luke. And this isn't a complaint. This isn't a mark taken off the episode. This is just a question that I can't help but ask. Why does Luke make Grogu have to choose in the end between seeing Mando again or continuing to train as a Jedi? He left Yoda to go help his friends, and he came back later to finish his training, and then continued to train himself, and it all worked out fine for him. He's the last Jedi. He's the best Jedi in the universe as far as we know. His attachment to his friends, his compassion, it didn't affect him any. So why is he so strict with Grogu now?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I've always had somewhat of an issue with the whole aspect of attachment and connectivity to and love and all that stuff that a Jedi has to. I mean, I understand the whole aspect of what does Yoda say? Like, you must let go of everything you fear to lose. Like, I get that. I get that the fact that you have to understand that if this person dies, I'm okay with that. I could be okay with that. I could be okay with going on and not feel hatred or anger that happened. I get that part of it. Right. But to say that you can't care for somebody in a way, even though, I always go back to that conversation that Anakin and Padme had in episode 2, where she says, are you allowed to love? I thought it was forbidden for Jedi. And he's like, well, attachment is forbidden, but compassion, which he described as unconditional love, is essential to a Jedi's life. I mean, you are, as a Jedi, supposed to be compassionate. And you're supposed to be
cold-hearted.
Yeah, you care about life. You care about protecting people. And so there has to be some aspect of compassion and love. Now, again, to the point where you're attached to attachment in the sense of fearing to lose them, I get it. But to say that you can't have friends and you can't be, care about their well-being, I don't buy that. and there's that balance, there's that line, right, that teeters on the dark side if you start thinking about having those feelings. But Luke, I think with Yoda, Yoda was saying you can't go because he wasn't trained enough to squash the feelings of the fear of losing them.
And to
right?
protect himself from the dark side, he wasn't
correct.
trained.
I think that's why Yoda didn't want, because there was that risk that Luke would fall if he wasn't trained enough and put in those situations. It worked out, like you said, but there was definitely that fear from Luke and Yoda and Obi-Wan that Luke was facing Vader too soon.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm with you. I think the compassion thing and the fact that you can't care about people is not. It's almost hypocritical in a sense. Jedi's are supposed to care about people, but there is that training of understanding that if you lose them, you need to be okay with that. And it started with Anakin by losing his mother, right? He wasn't okay with that.
And that could be where a lot of it comes from. They are, after seeing what happened to Anakin, they're just scared of that happening again.
Yeah. Well, and it clearly had happened to several people, before that, because there was several Jedi that left the Order because of that, because of similar reasons.
It's still it's also hypocritical of Luke, though, to be less way with Grogu. Maybe it's because Grogu's such a young little thing still. He doesn't have the comprehension yet to make these kind of complex decisions. Maybe that's what it is. But yet he still presents them with the question, and it's just tough, because I'm like, Luke, you went against this yourself. I don't understand why. Like, have you just suddenly understood? Oh yeah, Yoda was right. I should have stayed behind and let Han and Leia die. Like, I don't know where he is in his mind with all of that.
Yeah, but again, you remember Luke had that ultimate decision basically in Return of the Jedi, right? When Vader attacked his sister, and Luke said no, and he basically
Raged.
teetered on the dark side there.
Yeah.
Because he was afraid of losing Leia.
Yeah.
But he stops himself. Before he kills Vader, he stops himself, throws the saber down, says, I'm not giving in. Basically saying, I'm not giving in to the dark side. I'm not giving in to these feelings, of hatred and fear. So I think, and that's a lot to do with his training, I think. So I think with Grogu, it's, he's got to make a commitment and get away from that attachment now in order to train correctly. Now, once he's trained, could he possibly have those relationships later? I think it's possible, but I think Luke's given him that choice now because he is still so attached to Mando.
All right.
It's pretty deep stuff.
It's some deep stuff. I mean, there's so much lore just from the original trilogy that's heavily weighed in this conversation piece, yeah. All right. Well, let's swing it over to Grogu now, and we're going to come back around to a bit of that in a moment, but I got a few smaller points I want to talk about with Grogu. First off, how good does it feel to see our favorite little green guy on screen again after all this time? I mean, tears of joy. My eyes were watering because I was just so happy to see Grogu again.
Yeah, very happy. Yeah, it was kind of a question last week of whether or not this was actually going to happen now or in season 3, but I'm glad it was now. It's been a long time.
And we got a lot of them. Like half the episode was him.
Yes, that's right.
And then some of the most fun stuff we've seen of him yet. I mean, just everything. I mean, at one point here, he's still just a young kid. He's easily distracted. He's supposed to be meditating with Luke, and a frog hops by, and he's like, huh? And I'm going to eat that thing.
Yes, true.
It must be a delicacy for him, those frogs.
Yeah, it seems like, part of me seems like not that much time has actually gone by, because he's still not really that much trained,
Not a lot, no.
Like he hasn't even started really, So, but it might have taken some time to find this location and settle down and stuff like that. But it seems like they could have been just meditating for a while. Yeah,
exactly. And so another scene is when they're walking through the forest. I love. At first, you see Grogu jump, and I thought, whoa, he's got some force ability already. But then as the camera pulls back, you see it's Luke helping him walk faster by force jumping him along. He's just like, whoop, like giving him a pat on the butt with the force. And
yes,
that was
cool. Yeah, that was really cool.
So just moments like that with little Grogu, just amazing stuff. So let's get to that memory sequence. Luke helps him see his memories, which is what one of my favorite scenes led into. And I'm guessing that Grogu is traumatized by these memories because it happened when, like you said, he's maybe 20 years old. So he's a baby. When things like that happen to you, your brain kind of is like, whoa, you can't handle this. I'm going to block all that stuff out. So I'm thinking Grogu was traumatized by all of that stuff that he witnessed. And that's why he can't remember. That's why he couldn't tell Ahsoka everything, and that's why Luke had to dig into his brain to remember that stuff. So I'm just assuming, poor guy, he's traumatized.
Yeah, for sure. And who knows, because we still don't know. I mean, it's a long time from the Clone Wars to when Mando finds him. We really don't know what's happened to him all these years.
He's locked up in a cradle. Like, what has he been doing all that time?
Yes. I mean, has he been experimented on? Has he just been sitting in somebody's house
shack?
as a just I don't know. We don't know what he's been doing. So
for those 30 years, essentially.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
so it's
for him to forget everything, forget his life, forget his training, forget everything. Like, he's just been a baby being luckily taken care of by somebody. Like, we don't know. You're right.
We have no idea. And that's something I think we need to find out at some point.
Maybe that if Luke continues to help him with his memories, we'll get Grogu flashbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Like we got Mando flashbacks. Like we got Boba Fett flashbacks. Maybe we'll get Grogu flashbacks.
Yeah.
We got some here. And what we saw here is Order 66 taking place at the Jedi Temple with the clones attacking all the Jedi and killing them while Grogu witnesses it all. So the big question here, I mean, first of all, that's shocking. I mean, we see little baby Grogu, his eyes just wide. He's obviously down at the end of the hall as he sees this attack happening, and they come running for him. But the question is, who rescues him and how? How do they get away from that and survive? That's my big question right now.
Yeah, that's a big question, I think. Because if I remember correctly, when Ahsoka was asking him or telling him, she mentioned that somebody took him from the temple.
Yeah.
But we don't know if it was a friend or foe, necessarily.
Yeah.
Right? So that is a big question that needs to be answered.
I would think friend, because in that scene we saw the clone troopers gunning down everybody. So I think they would have just gunned down him too. Oh, there's a youngling, a Padawan, whatever he is, blah, 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 blah. They would have shot him too. Because they shot the 3 Jedi, and as they were walking down the hall, the guy put a few more shots into the one on the ground just to make sure he's dead. So there was no questions asked there. I think they would have shot Grogu too.
I guess that's possible, yeah. Yeah, unless there was some kind of mandate for the clone troopers to not kill Grogu and take it hostage or something, but
that's hard to say. I mean, Order 66, I know.
So somebody must have grabbed Grogu and got out.
Look at what Anakin did. He went into the youngling's room and slaughtered all the kids. I don't think Grogu would be treated any different.
Right, probably not.
So who? Okay, just a guess, a theory. Do you have an idea of who could have taken him? For fun?
I don't, because I don't. Technically, no Jedi survived that raid on the temple because Anakin was in there too, like you said.
Yeah.
Man,
somebody had to.
Somebody that we don't know of if they're still around.
If it's a Jedi, but if it was just somebody like,
Yeah,
like one of the characters from Clone Wars that we were, part of the cast, but not a Jedi. Could have been anyone.
Yeah, that's possible. Yeah, but people in the temple were either Jedi or Jedi temple guards.
Maybe it was R2.
I guess at that point, where was R2? R2 at the Order 66. R2 was.
I don't think he was with Anakin during all that when Anakin was attacking.
Did he? Yeah, I don't know where he was. I think R2 was with Anakin when he flew to Mustafar and took out the Separatists. So I don't know. Yeah, he might have been just in the ship.
I was just throwing it out there as something funny. I have no idea. I mean, it would suit R2 to be the heroic droid as he was, but
yeah,
that means
true.
he's known who little Grogu was all this time. Which, if you think about it, could answer the scene at the season 2 finale of Mandalorian when R2 leans over to look at him and kind of dances like he's happy to see him.
Very true. Yep.
Maybe R2 knew him already.
Yeah, that's possible. That's definitely possible.
So will we see more of these memories to get those answers?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to get Grogu's full story at some point. Is it in a show? I don't know. It could be more just in a comic or a novel or something like that, But I think it'd have to be a show more centered around Grogu to show that. So if they ever did like a Luke and Grogu show,
for sure,
maybe
it could be Mandalorian season 3. They could dedicate an episode to Mando coming to check on him again or something. And
could be.
Or I mean, they just stole 2 Boba Fett episodes to show us Mando and Grogu. So maybe they'll give a whole Mando episode to more Grogu training.
Right. They definitely could.
Because Grogu essentially. Since episode 1, Grogu is just as much a main character of Mandalorian as Mando is.
Yep.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah. So it's his show too.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I think this was a hint. Again, testing grounds. This was a hint to like Luke's going to dig in. Luke's going to help Grogu open his memories, and we're going to see his full story. It's got to be played out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about his Force. The Force use training. Luke is teaching him focus and control and how to connect to the Force to help him in his movements. And we've got the training remote that gets him to instinctively jump with the Force because he wasn't able to do it on his own. Luke's like, come on, you can do better than that. That's all you got, because he was jumping like an inch off the ground. And that's when he pulls out the training remote and says, all right. And then suddenly he instinctively reacts, and he's jumping and he's flipping around, and I loved it because it's like what we saw Yoda do in the prequel movies when he got into those lightsaber fights with Dooku and stuff. He's flipping all over the caverns. I was totally reminiscing, oh my god, look at Grogu's doing the same thing. So much fun.
Yeah.
And
totally.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and then at the end of that whole sequence, I just thought it was so funny. He's so tired from all the jumping that he just lays down on the rock. Out in the middle of the water, he just lays down on the rock and takes a nap.
Yeah, I noticed that too. He still gets quite worn out from using the Force.
Yeah. Well, that was a lot of physical activity too. I mean,
true.
He was jumping everywhere.
Yeah.
We've never seen him move like that. So, but I mean, it was just cool to see him jumping and flipping like that. Did you enjoy it? Did you laugh at it? Did you think, nah, this looks pretty corny? Or like, what did you think of that whole scene?
No, I thought it was pretty neat. I thought it was. Obviously, you can tell there were. I felt like there were. Maybe it was all, but I could tell there some of the shots that were CG'd, versus what looked like still kind of a puppet that was kind of jumping around. But
yeah.
But no, I didn't think it looked. I mean, we saw Yoda jumping around, right? So.
And he was completely CG.
Yeah, that was completely CG. Yeah. So.
Because.
But my only thing was, like I said earlier, was I would have changed his clothes a little bit because he looked like he fell out.
Guy. Poor guy. But he was. I mean, he was running. He was jumping. he's much younger, obviously, than Yoda. So to see this little baby do it like this is his first time jumping. He's never jumped before, so it looked funny. It looked a bit goofy, a bit awkward, and he's trying to he's learning his body. He's figuring out how his muscles work. And I mean, even just him balancing out on the end of the log, he's balancing and he's whoa, and he's almost falling off. And it's just to me, it was fun, just because he's squeaking, he's squawking, he's making his little Grogu sounds. It was fun. You're just chuckling and you're ear to ear smiling because it's baby Grogu. He's training. This is awesome.
Yep, it was.
Now, going back to one of the favorite scenes, he misses Mando a lot. As Mando listens to Ahsoka and leaves, we see Grogu see the ship fly away, and he reaches out to it. And that is the point that I really started to tear up, because I think he could probably feel that it was Mando. He doesn't know the ship, but I bet you he felt it and knew that was him. And he's just reaching out like, my friend. And that just tore at my heart.
Yeah. No, he definitely knew it was him. Yeah, that was a pretty tough scene.
And he's probably wondering, like, why is he leaving? Why didn't he come see me?
Yep.
Kids don't
I'm sure it was a little telling to Luke, about the attachment and all that. So
probably, yeah.
Yeah. Which leads to the decision.
Yeah. All right, Vizsla. We got a big question with Grogu now. Luke presents him with the choice. The armor from Mando, and you go be with him, or Yoda's lightsaber, and you can continue your training to become a great Jedi. And we get left with the cliffhanger of what will he choose? Theory time. Which will he choose and why? Let's do arguments for both choices. Will he choose the armor and go be with Mando, and that's why we never hear of him again, because the two of them go off into wherever in the galaxy? Where would he and Mando disappear so that we never see them again? Or is it just that the main movie storyline that we've seen only deals with the war between the Rebels and the Empire and not all the side stories like Mando? So maybe they're fine. Maybe they're alive. The movie's focused on the war. So there could be a lot of this stuff. Maybe Ahsoka's alive somewhere. She just wasn't part of the war. Mando's not part of the war. Would something possibly happen to him, and that's why we never see him again? Now, the big or is, will he choose the lightsaber and train to be a Jedi? If he's to be the first student of the Jedi Academy, what happens to him then? Does losing him, to whatever reason, start Luke on his path to seclusion? Does Grogu somehow go dark because of his connection to Mando and not being able to see him? And that tragedy is what scares Luke when he sees Kylo also going dark? I'm throwing a lot of these ideas at you, so I want to hear your thoughts on this decision and what you think Grogu is going to do, and then where you think that's going to lead, depending on which way he goes. Because you already said, I think I have the answer.
Yeah, I think I was surprised to obviously see this choice given to Grogu at the end of this. The fact that we saw Luke questioning Ahsoka, what should I do about this? Because he questioned, it doesn't seem like his heart's in it. It doesn't seem like, I don't know, this episode just, to me, went down the path that Grogu is not going to continue the training.
Jedi.
So my theory is that he's going to choose Mando, and part of it is because, like you said, he is one of the main characters of the Mandalorian show. So it would have been weird going into season 3 actually without having Grogu in it. So I think he is going to choose the armor. I think Luke is going to bring him to Tatooine, And I think it's possible Luke gets involved in this war.
Whoa, you are swinging for the fences.
Yeah. I think that's could be what happens in this next episode.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't
now,
even
if it doesn't,
fathom
I think
that.
he delivers him to Mando in season 3, beginning of season 3, if it doesn't happen next week.
Okay.
But I still think there's a possibility that Luke actually shows up and fights. Because you got to think about it. It's his home planet.
Oh, yeah.
You know, what does he want to see the Syndicate take over and all this stuff? But the problem is that he did fight Boba Fett the last time he saw Boba Fett. So,
Yeah.
But to me, that would be a cool scene too, right? To see Boba Fett and Luke in the same scene again.
Because Luke would have to get the reaction like, wait, you're alive?
Yes, exactly. You know, like, oh my gosh, Boba Fett, you survived.
And then Boba Fett have to say, hey, look, man, all's good.
Yeah. No hard feelings.
Can you help me out? You're a Jedi. Like, hey, I need you here.
Yeah, so I whether or not he shows up, I don't know in this next episode, but I do think Grogu, I don't think his heart's in it. I think Luke has a good observation of him in this episode, and I think Ahsoka tells him, you know, follow your instincts, and I think his instincts is giving Grogu that choice, because if he chooses the armor, he knows that he is too attached to continue. If he chooses the saber and takes the armor away from him, then I think he believes that there's a way to train him out of that attachment.
Okay.
But he's not going to make that decision. He's making Grogu make that decision.
Do you think Grogu's too young for that kind of decision? I mean, he can't even decide to pay attention to Luke when a frog hops by.
Right.
That seems like a big choice to lay on that little guy's shoulders.
That is a big choice. And you're right, because I don't think a lot of, because I don't think, as far as I know, as far as we know, younglings, when they're taken from their parents, not taken, they're given to the Jedi Order from their parents. But, when they start training younglings at a very young age, I don't imagine them ever putting a decision like this in front of them.
Yeah.
There is no attachment because they take them at such a young age. But, like we said, though, we don't know what he's been doing, but Grogu has been alive for 30 years, right? During this whole period between Clone Wars and this time period. So we don't know what has happened to him, but he's seen a lot and he's experienced a lot. Even if he's been stuck in someone's house this whole time, he's at least experienced despair and sadness. So he's got a lot of emotions going through him. So
loneliness. Training
him is very difficult. And for somebody, Luke has never trained anybody.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It is a difficult decision to put in front of him for sure. Not one that I don't think younglings ever have in the Jedi temples, Jedi academies. But, I think Luke is struggling with this attachment, and I think he thinks Grogu is going to choose Mando also.
Interesting. I have no arguments to go against that.
But you want to see a Luke Grogu show, though, right? So
yeah, I want to see that too. And so let me throw another question at you here. Luke presents him with Yoda's lightsaber. Now that was also a really friggin' cool moment, because it's like Luke kept something of his master, and Yoda's lightsaber is smaller and shorter for Yoda's stature, which is perfect for Grogu. Now, I don't really care about the continuity issues here. I saw people complaining that this doesn't make sense. This is a massive hole. Yoda's lightsaber was destroyed. I can't remember what the story is. Maybe you know it. Somebody stole it, or Darth Vader, or somebody got it, destroyed it, or got lost. But then someone else was saying, no, Yoda, that was a fake, that was a planted lightsaber. His real one is the one that Luke has. I don't know. What do you know about all this story? And then tell me what you think of the fact that Luke has it here to present to Grogu.
Yeah, so people are right. In the Vader comic, the second volume of the Vader series, which was called Darth Vader, Lord of the Sith, something like that, it takes place exactly right after Episode 3. So it picks up where, in the first arc, is him, getting his own saber, getting the red saber that we know that he has, because he doesn't have a saber at this point. But there's a scene where Ma Sameda, the blue character that's always next to Palpatine in the movie, in the prequels.
Okay.
They collect all the Jedi's lightsabers, the ones that died in the temple and whatever they had them in this big case, and they destroy them. And the reason why people are saying that is because he does hold up a saber in the comic, and the saber is Yoda's. Like, it looks exactly like Yoda's. He doesn't say it's Yoda's, so again, the comics could be retconned in saying, well, he just held up a saber. He didn't hold up Yoda's saber. But I think it was meant to mean that that's Yoda's saber. Now, there's an encyclopedia that describes Yoda's hut, right? And in that encyclopedia, it says, and I haven't physically seen this, but I read about it. It says that there was a case in Yoda's hut where Yoda kept another lightsaber.
Which is the one Luke presents.
And that's the one Luke has.
Right.
So that would make sense, because if you think about it, even though we didn't see it in live action, but Sidious, Palpatine, he also has two sabers. He has dual sabers. We saw him use it in the Clone Wars, right?
Yeah.
So I was telling somebody this. I was like, now, how awesome would it be if Yoda actually had dual sabers? Because I want to see that.
Yeah.
Maybe in the High Republic, we'll see him yielding both sabers at some point.
And that could answer right there.
But the thought is that he does have two of the same sabers.
Okay. Well, I mean, Ahsoka's carrying two sabers. The other thought could be is Yoda knows what's happening. Order 66, the Jedi are being slaughtered. He takes off and goes to hide on Dagobah to get away from it all. Nobody knows he's alive. So maybe he left a lightsaber there. People know that, like, they know his lightsaber. It's a unique one. It's a little one. I guess it could be a youngling's lightsaber, but he could have planted it there saying, well, if I leave my lightsaber there, they'll think I got killed in battle and no one's going to come looking for me. So it's a plant, which is part of the argument I saw. It's a planted lightsaber, whether it's a fake one or it's one of two. Either way, it works for the story as to why Luke still comes into possession of the other one.
Yeah. Does Yoda what we don't know is the connection necessary at the Dagobah fully. We know that was it's a planet that's kind of off the radar, obviously, and that it has strong presence, force presence, and dark side presence.
Yeah.
So why did Yoda always know about this place, and he knew where he was going to go if he ever this situation ever happened, or did he randomly pick this place at the moment?
That's a good discussion sometime.
Yeah, if he randomly picked it, how did he get his other saber there? Because when he gets there, he obviously doesn't have the one he had fighting Sidious, because that fell. So I don't know. There's some holes there a little bit, but they're easily explainable.
If he had two, he just brought the other one with him. I mean, there's no real question mark there. If he had two, he lost one in the fight, and as he's fleeing, he went to his chambers, grabbed the other one, and left.
Yes, that's definitely possible. Yes. Yep.
Yeah. I know the encyclopedia, that's like the Encyclopedia of Star Wars Locations, which is on my list of ones I want to get. And it basically shows you images of locations, and there's like cutaway sections showing
Yes.
you the insides of everything, and there's a picture of his Dagobah hut with everything in it. So, yeah.
That's right. That's probably where it says, the extra
Very cool.
lightsaber.
Yeah. Very, very cool. So,
But again, the only usually when someone has dual sabers, they're not exactly the same, like Ahsoka's, right? They're different hilts.
right.
But we saw Sidious's dual sabers, and those are actually the same sabers. So it makes sense that maybe Yoda made the same sabers twice.
Yeah.
It's not
So-
out of the realm of possibility.
No. So if Grogu chooses to go with Mando, where does their story go from there then? It leads into, because we speculated season 3 of Mandalorian is going to be all about Bo-Katan and him helping her out to save Mandalore. But what if it's got nothing to do with that? What if it's just another season of him and Grogu doing their thing?
Yeah, I don't think he has I don't know if he'll have a bounty still on him, but I don't think he will. I think it's what we saw in that last week's episode with Bryce Dallas Howard's with the armor and stuff like that. I think Mando's on a mission to redeem himself, and he's going to go to Mandalore.
He's going to go to Mandalore and get his planet back. Yeah.
Yes, and I think that it's possible Grogu goes with him, because he's part of his clan still,
Yeah.
right?
And obviously Bo-Katan will be there.
I just think Grogu has to be in season 3 of Mandalorian because everybody's going to want him there, right? And
Yeah, because we talked about that. Can the show exist without him? It is called The Mandalorian. It's supposed to be his show. Can we have a season of just him in it? Do they have to throw enough at us, like Bo-Katan and Sabine Wren and these other cool characters to help us forget about Grogu?
yeah, that's I don't know. I think because that very first episode had the both of them in it. I think it's their story. It's their story together.
Yeah. And
How
like
it
we
ends,
talked about,
who knows?
The Mandalorian, quote unquote, might not be Din Djarin. Maybe it's all about Grogu becoming a Mandalorian because he's the foundling.
That's true too.
He's got his Beskar armor suit now. He becomes he's the Mandalorian.
That's a very good point. Yep.
Maybe he knows what a lightsaber is and he wields the dark saber. He's the one in charge.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Jeez. Sitting
That's a
on the
very good
throne of
point.
Mandalore.
Yeah.
So what did you think of my idea, though, if, per se, he chooses the lightsaber and then later on realizes that's not what he wants, he misses Mando, Luke doesn't let him go, and because of his attachment and he starts to feel anger for the first time, he goes down the dark path and he can't control it. And something happens to Grogu, and that is what scares Luke. Like I said, when eventually Kylo starts going dark, Luke is so scared, he's like, oh, this happened to Grogu. I'm taking Kylo out before it's too late. And that's why we see that scene of Luke attacking Kylo in his sleep. I know I'm creating a lot of stuff there, but is that a possible line of storytelling?
I think that's definitely possible.
It's tragic. I mean, no, that's not a way anyone would want to see Grogu go, but
right. Yeah. That's interesting. I mean, it could there's some possibilities there for sure. I think, Luke, that's why I kind of keep thinking Luke is not fully ready to train. I know Ahsoka kept saying that the Grogu's going to be the first student. He may be considered the first student, but again, I don't believe he's going to keep training him. I think there's going to be another gap of Luke kind of on his own, still looking for artifacts and learning to be a better master. Again, Grogu could canonically be his first student, but I don't think it's going to be. I think it's going to be short lived.
interesting.
That's where I'm at.
That's where you're at.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to see. We'll have to see where they go.
So do you want to? You don't. What prediction do you have? Does he? Which way does he go?
Did I say? I never really said.
I don't think you have.
God, do I have to predict that?
Well, first question is: do you think they show up in this next episode at all?
Luke and Grogu?
Yes.
I have a feeling not, because Ahsoka sways Mando to leave, and he leaves, and then Luke presents him with the choice. Unless, well, I guess if Grogu chooses the suit, then Luke's like, okay, I'll take you to him, and that could be how they get there. And I love your idea of Tatooine and Luke's home planet. If he finds out there's trouble there, he might want to help, save the people of his home planet. Because that would be an awesome story to see Luke come back to Tatooine. But man, would that take away from the Boba Fett story? Again, we're stealing from Boba Fett, and we got to finish his story. He's trying to save Tatooine and save Mos Espa. So bringing Luke and Grogu there might just totally steal all the attention away. So I might be with you that he might choose the suit of armor, but we won't see that until season 3 of The Mandalorian, and Luke bringing him there then. I think this fight is going to be just Mando and Boba and the characters we have there established, and Cobb, Vanth, and everybody else. I'm going to say no. Luke and Grogu do not show up in the next episode.
Okay.
But that also leans to me. I don't know. You've almost convinced me that he might choose the suit. But I
think eventually he's going to choose a suit.
You came up with a lot of good reasons, but at the same time, it's like, why would they present us with Grogu if he doesn't continue on the Jedi legacy and Yoda's legacy and Yoda's species, and give us a chance to find out all about that? Because Luke was asking him in this episode, do you remember your people? Do you recognize Yoda? Like I played in the favorite scene there. Do you remember seeing anybody like that? Do you know who your people are? And Grogu's like, I don't know. So Luke might keep helping him remember that.
That's possible, but I still think we have to look at the images and the story that we do know of Luke beginning the training of Ben Solo, and at that point there is no Grogu around. Like, we don't see him around, and that's only 6 years basically after what we have now. So at some point Grogu's not around, and I think this choice is probably the reason.
Whatever choice he takes, or only if he takes?
No, I think that's why he chooses not to get trained. That's why he's not around anymore. So that's part of the reason. Obviously, if we had never seen the sequel trilogy yet, and the whole future was ready to be written, it'd be fantastic that he sticks with him and trains him. But we know how this kind of ends for Luke, so
yeah,
I don't think he trains him.
Interesting thoughts, man. You got a lot of good points there that I can't really argue with.
Yep.
Oh, but it's so fascinating. It's so amazing that we're even getting to talk about this, and just get to speculate on all these things. Man, can't wait.
Yeah, there's a picture. I was going to bring up. There's a picture that I saved off Twitter. Someone had a picture of 10 characters, and the tweet said something like R2D2, Boba Fett, Din Djarin, Ahsoka, Fennec Shan, Black Chrysanthemum, Cobb Vanth, Luke Skywalker, Grogu, Cad Bane. All 10 of these characters were in the same episode.
That's crazy.
It's like, that's Star Wars right now. It's like, are you kidding me?
That's crazy.
Yes.
That is literally insane. Like,
insane that we got that.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And just a real quick go back before we get into feedback here. I looked up the Cad Bane tubes.
Okay. Oh, you did.
Yeah. So they're breathing tubes, which enabled him to survive being force choked.
Oh.
So it's his way to combat the Jedi. Now, why he still has them, if he thinks the Jedi are not around anymore, maybe. I don't know, but he still has them on.
I wonder how that works, though. How does that stop being force choked?
Yeah, because it's weird, because I think we've seen scenes of him without them on, so it's not like they're, I don't know, it's not like they're in his cheek or whatever, right? Not like he has holes in his cheeks, but not sure how it works, but that's apparently the purpose of them.
Huh. Well, that's interesting. Yeah. Okay, cool. I mean, that's fascinating. That's something I never thought or we would know about.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I would not have guessed that at all. I would have thought breathing. He got injured somewhere along the way or something, and he needs breathing help because I thought it affects his voice. That's why he sounds the way he does. But crazy.
No, because he's had him off in the Clone Wars, and he sounds the same.
Oh,
I think this is his voice.
Okay, I forgot that. I don't remember him not having them.
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, the Mandalorians have their armor and all their gadgets to fight Jedi, to counter Jedi attacks. So
That's right.
why wouldn't Cad Bane?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Well, that is a heck of a lot of discussion. You know, our finale episode is going to go on for 4 hours.
Jeez, yeah.
We are at the 3-hour mark now, and we got to get to feedback because I'm curious what our fans, our listeners, thought of this episode. I'm sure they're with us, but I'm still curious. Here we go.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
All right, we are going to kick it off with a voicemail from X-Force 11.
Well, hello, Star Wars fans. Now, people complained last week because it was a Mandalorian episode of Book of Boba Fett. I wonder if they feel the same way this week when more than half the episode was directly focused on characters introduced and dealing with the Mandalorian. And now that we see how it's all coming together, maybe they'll be a little more forgiving of last week's episode. This episode was so good. We got our first real live-action Cad Bane. We've got a flashback to Order 66 through Grogu's eyes. We've got the starting of his training with Luke in the Academy. I mean, it was just so good. I'm still hoping that Cobb Vanth lived because I really enjoy Timothy Oliphant and I enjoy that character and I'd like to see more. But, oh man, this episode was just so good because it was so rich and how they're weaving all these things together and just making this a connected Star Wars story of all these different characters and from the different episodes and everything just coming together and realizing that, yes, this may be the book of Boba Fett, but it is a smaller book within the larger tale of Star Wars, and I just really enjoyed it. All right, those are my thoughts. X-Force is out.
Yeah, X-Force, I think I'm with you. The fact that they're bringing everything together and creating that massive connected universe like they've done with Marvel, I think that's what's going on here, and it just makes sense. So I think we just have to accept that, hey, we're going to get an episode of Boba Fett that's not Boba Fett because we got to introduce these other storylines. But guess what? Just wait. Hold on your horses because at the end, it's all going to make sense.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff.
Good stuff.
Good thoughts. Next up is an email from TIE Fighter. We haven't heard from TIE Fighter in a while. And TIE Fighter says, "Greetings, Cyber Ren and D. Vizsla. It's been far too long, but have no fear. Even if I failed to send in feedback, I'm always listening to the Mandalore and Inside the Force podcasts." Well, we love your dedication. Thank you, sir. Wow, what can I say? And where do I begin with episode 6 of the Book of Boba Fett? Absolutely incredible. We're getting so much great content. Boba, Fennec, Mando, Ahsoka, Luke, R2, Grogu, Cobb, and Cad freaking Bane all in one episode. That's kind of the list you just read off. Dank Ferrick, That is maximum geek factor. How can I not give this episode a 10 out of 10 Baby Yoda chainmail suits? A few of the highlights for me were as follows. The training sessions with Luke and Grogu. I love how Luke is lifting him up and scooting him along with the Force as they walk. The moment you see R2 waiting to greet Mando, that was awesome. The backstory we get of how Grogu is maybe Luke's first student at the Jedi Praxium. The Ahsoka cameo was great. Cobb Vanth gunning down Pikes. Dang, he's quick on the draw, but not quick enough for you-know-who. Ha! Cad Bane. So intense when we get to see that large, flat-brimmed cowboy hat slowly appearing from off in the distance out of the dust. Epic. Definitely this episode's biggest highlight in my humble opinion. Cad Bane is quick with the blaster, cold-blooded, and bold. I think he's the baddest ass bounty hunter in the galaxy. He pretty much whips Obi-Wan in the Clone Wars. He also pulls off an insane heist of a holocron at the Jedi Temple. He guns down Hunter from the Bad Batch, and he guns down Cobb Vanth. Damn. Dude is slick and ruthless. Fennec Shan did hold her own against him, though, and probably even bested him in the Bad Batch. Can't wait to see what happens in our 7th and final episode, especially after seeing the Pikes blow up the Sanctuary and Garsa whip. Holy crap! A war is going to erupt. I'd love to see an all-out war scene with Boba Fett riding around on his Rancor, wrecking havoc on the Pikes, Mando wielding the Darksaber, hacking Pikes to bits, the Mod Squad, as they call them, on their cheesy little Vespas doing damage, and Fennec and Kersantin thrashing through the Pikes left and right. Ha ha! Wouldn't that be fun? Well, one can only dream. That's all for now, fellas. Love the show as always, and I can't wait to hear the next episode. Farewell for now, and may the Force be with you. TIE Fighter out. Now that is an enthusiastic feedback message.
Yes. Good to hear from you again, Ty.
Yeah, really good to hear from you, Ty. Awesome thoughts, as always. Next up is an email from our friend Froda.
All right, Froda. Hello, Star Wars fans. Here's my feedback on From the Desert Comes a Stranger. Holy shite. What an amazing episode. This was maybe the best episode from both the Boba Fett series and The Mandalorian. It was brilliant. There's so much to discuss, so I'm looking forward to hear what you guys think. This episode had several jaw-dropping moments for me. I'll rate it 10 out of 10. It was so good. There are several scenes and connections in this one that must be commended. The opening with Cobb Vanth and the Pike Guards was a good start. It was nice to see him again. I especially liked when he had gunned down 3 and said, "Think it through" to the last man. Why do you think that he didn't pick up the spice? Is it because he doesn't want anything with it at all?
Okay, that's a good question. He just kicked it over. He's just pissed. Like this, I get the stuff off my planet.
Exactly. It's like finding, wanting to rid your town of drugs. You're not going to use the drugs. You're going to throw it away.
Because he's the one guy. The one Pike said this is worth more than your planet.
That's right.
And so Cobb Vanth could have taken care of a lot of people with it. Anyway, yeah.
Next up was at the Jedi training planet. So nice to see R2-D2, Luke, and Ahsoka. The dialogue between Ahsoka and Mando was so good. The strong bond between Grogu and Mando is shown in a good way. He feels he must meet him, but so nice. The meditation with Luke and Grogu and the one-eyed frog. So cool to see Luke in deep concentration and beside him a hungry Grogu.
Yeah.
Had to laugh when he opened his left eye, pretended to meditate. And the look of Grogu when Luke lifts up all the nearby frogs. Wonderful.
Oh, yeah. He was so in shock. Like, whoa, smorgasbord.
Yes. I was hoping to see a bit more from Boba and his storyline in this episode. When Mando arrived at Mos Pelgo, Freetown, it reminded me of the scene when Aragorn talked to King Theoden. Open war is upon us, whether you risk it or not. Of course, good analogy. And of course, my jaw-dropping moment of this episode was when the blue badass bounty hunter, Cad Bane, arrived in the desert. At that moment, I thought that the marshal would die. And I'm not sure he actually died, though the deputy surely died. It was just one shot at Cobb Vanth. I presume that he survives and is going to convince the citizens of Freetown to stand up and fight.
Yeah, we're pretty sure it was a warning shot.
Yes. You have to talk about Cad Bane. I was hoping that he would arrive in the series, but I was quite unsure. It was so good that Disney took him in the series. I'm so looking forward to the war. My predictions. Grogu chooses both by lifting both items, showing Luke that he's struggling with the choice. Why not take both? I mean, why not?
Jeez. How would Luke react to that, do you think?
Luke's not going to let him, Luke's giving him a choice. I don't think he's going to let him. I think the fact that if he chooses the armor at all, I think that's telling Luke that his heart's not in it.
Yeah. Yeah, he's already got that feeling about him. You're right.
Yeah. Yeah. So imagine if Luke brings Grogu to Mando, where they observe that Mando is about to lose his life. Luke takes up the fight against the Pikes, helping the man who tried to kill him some years ago. In doing so, Luke makes sure that Mando wields the Darksaber. I hope that Mando will be the second Mandalorian who'd be a Jedi. That will be a great Mandalorian Season 3. But in the next episode of Boba Fett, I think that we'll see Boba ride the Rancor, Chrysanthemum crush several Pikes, and Cad Bane will be amazing. Looking forward to the last episode. Best of luck, Frodo.
Wow, okay, so Luke makes sure that Mando wields the Darksaber. I think I need to see Luke react to the Darksaber. Does he know about it? Has he ever heard of it? Is it in Jedi lore and all the stuff that he's searching out?
It's possible he might have heard about it, but I don't think he's got too much knowledge of it.
So then seeing his reaction to it would be pretty interesting. I think
Ahsoka or even Luke on this theory. I mean, I think the theory is fantastic that Mando could become a Jedi Mandalorian.
Yeah.
In fact, I might have even said that. Like, I feel like we talked about this.
I think so. Yeah, I think we've talked about that.
That could he be force sensitive? I think I think Ahsoka and or Luke would have felt that if he was force sensitive. Still could be a possibility, but
true.
I think they would have kind of hinted at that already.
Would that be too much, though? Our main character, our Mandalorian, the Boba Fett replacement, all that stuff, to suddenly be a Jedi as well, would that be just too much? Like, they'd be like, it's like Superman in Star Wars. He's just too much. He's got everything.
Yes. Technically, he can't become a Jedi because we know, again, how this ends, right?
True. And he's also in his 40s, so...
You're right.
If Luke was too old to train, he's probably a little too old.
Very, very true. Yep.
Good thoughts, as always, from our friend way over there in Europe. Next up is a voicemail from Lisa Tano.
Hi, guys. It is Lisa calling in, a.k.a. Lisa Tano. So I had some thoughts about this week's episode, and I don't know if I'm by myself or not, but honestly, I was so looking forward to this episode. Oh, and I found it really unsatisfying and really... I was sad, kind of. I don't know, like... Just watching Grogu go through Luke's training, he's such a cute little fun, playful guy, and it looked super not fun. And Luke's just kind of being mean to him, and I don't know, I kind of just didn't get it. It didn't seem to fit or jive for me from what I was expecting, I guess. I just wanted it to be magical and amazing, and then Din Djarin didn't even get to see him, and when he flew away and Grogu reached out and was so sad, like I don't know, I can't get past it. I didn't like it, I guess. I don't know, I wanted to like it so bad, and I just found it really unsatisfying. And then the coolest part of the episode for me was when Cad Bane walked out of the desert. That whole that whole exchange was really epic and awesome, and I really hope Cobb Vanth is okay because he's going to be helpful later, and I would really hate to see him just be dead so anticlimactically. But all that whole piece was really, really cool. And then what else was I thinking? Oh, the end, Grogu's big decision. That was like super shocking. I was really, really surprised at the way Luke did that. I want to even say to him, because it just seems like the most impossible decision for, they keep calling him a kid, like it's a child. And I'm just thinking like of my kid, right? You give this cool, shiny gift from someone that you love more than anything. Or, I mean, the lightsaber, I don't know, does Grogu even know who Yoda is? Like, there doesn't seem to be any connection or history or teaching there. Maybe they just haven't showed it, I don't know. But I just can't see Grogu staying as much as I want him to, because I just feel like he's becoming a Jedi, and it's amazing, and all of his little hopping and, avoiding the laser beam ball thing, like, he was doing really well, and I just can't imagine him not continuing his training, but I honestly I don't know if they can even make it a good thing either way. Like, I feel like people are going to be disappointed either way that he chooses. And I always have faith in the powers that be that write these shows, because they always bring it back around and make it okay. So I'm sure they're going to do that. But right now, I just really am struggling with this episode. And I don't know. I can't see. First of all, I don't think they're going to tell us this next episode, which is going to be awful. They're probably going to wait till Mandalorian. And if they do, then I feel like it's logical that Grogu's going to choose to go with Din Djarin. And that just is the way the story will unfold. But then at the same time, if Din Djarin flew all the way to this planet to see him, and he was missing him, and so sad and longing and wanting to see his little buddy and make sure he's okay, and he didn't, if he's willing to sacrifice not seeing him when he's basically in arm's reach, I can't see him letting Grogu quit Jedi training either. So I don't know, I'm struggling with this episode. I've been loving everything so far, but I just don't know what to say otherwise. So I'm really looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say and the podcast, and really looking forward to this next episode. I think it's the finale. Obviously, they're building up to this big war, and it's going to probably be pretty epic and Star Wars-y, so it's going to be great. And I don't think they're going to show us any more Grogu. But they are going to show us Boba Fett and Fennec Shand and Cad Bane and Din Djarin and hopefully Cobb Vanth and all these cool characters that we're starting to love. I can't wait for it to all come together. And it's going to be really cool. So anyways, we'll talk to you guys next week. And that's it.
There's a reaction I probably wasn't, I don't know if we would have expected. Someone who is so on the fence and unsure with how they feel about this episode. They were able to step aside from all the awesomeness of the stuff we got and go, I don't know if I like what they did to Grogu here. Like, they put him in a precarious position where he has to choose, and he's too young to make these choices. And someone, Alyssa Daniel, obviously loves Grogu so much. She's struggling to see him get all these things happen to him. I don't know. What do you think of what she said?
No, it's very interesting, because I didn't expect that either. But I can see where that would come across, especially a mother with a child, because I have a child also. I have 2 children, and it's a big choice. But that's the thing about Star Wars is Padawans, younglings and Padawans are very young, and there's a lot of responsibility thrown on these types of, this stage in their lives if they're becoming Jedi. So,
they're taken from their families when they're like babies. Pretty much.
Yeah. So, and they're young. They're 5-6 years old, learning how to wield lightsabers. So there's a lot that younglings and Padawans go through. Grogu is 50 years old technically. He I know he looks like a child, but he's not. So it is a big choice, and it's one that Luke has to know in order to know what's best for him. So I can see where that way of that interpretation could come from, but also, but also I think I think it's a necessary choice for Luke to know.
For all the reasons you said earlier about knowing where Grogu's heart is and is he too attached? Yeah.
That's right.
Interesting. Well, that was a good one to kind of get us thinking about something different. Huh. Cool. Well, I guess we'll see. That's all we can say. We will see where it goes from there. Next up is an email from Abba Fett, and she says, "Hi guys, Abba Fett here with feedback for Book of Boba Fett episode 6. As much as I loved last week's episode, I'm actually only rating this episode 8 frogs in the swamp out of 10. Oh. Now, while it was really cool to see Grogu training with Luke and growing in the Force, seeing a bit more into his past and seeing Ahsoka and Luke together on screen, I will say that I actually felt what I brushed on last week in the episode, which was a bit weird to me, since this one actually had Boba in it, even if it was only one scene, and tied things back to his story, but it still didn't feel like Boba's story. So because of pacing and feeling like seeing Luke and Grogu should have actually been saved for Mando Season 3, this one gets a bit of a slower rating. Wow. Seeing Ahsoka and Luke actually meet, bringing her story to Anakin full circle was really cool, and seeing Grogu training and having a choice between the tiny chainmail and Yoda's lightsaber was an evil cliffhanger. I laughed more than was probably necessary when the droid started building Mando a bench to wait on. I thought that was too funny. It was very funny. I really like seeing Cobb Vanth back, and I'm hoping that he's not dead and just injured. I'd love to see more of him. I also don't have much of an attachment to Cad Bane, as probably others do. I didn't freak out when he showed up. I'm glad, though, that this adds an extra layer to the war with the Pikes, and we could get Cad and Boba go against each other again. Was also expecting a literal bomb to go off in this episode, so they're building what looks to be an exciting finale. I'm just a little worried for Boba's story altogether as a character and how they've focused on him to get here. But I'm still looking forward to seeing how it ends and to the podcast. I learned so much from you guys. Keep it up. Until next time, your friend Abba Fett. Okay. Interesting. So the ladies are not taken to this one as much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
But it makes sense. It's the Book of Boba Fett, and there's no Boba Fett.
And we've talked about that. Yeah, I mean, you could have issue with that. Mm-hmm. And I mean, maybe not everybody loves Cad Bane. Maybe she just didn't care much for Cad Bane from the Clone Wars, or maybe she never watched Clone Wars to really know much about him. Like, who knows, right?
Right.
Not everybody loves C-3PO, but hey, whatever.
Yeah, totally.
All right, next up is B. Jarrus.
B. Jarrus, another great episode of Star Wars TV. I gave it 9 unexpected Ahsoka appearances. Mm-hmm. Here are some thoughts. Cad Bane was terrifying and almost perfect. I just wish his skin was a bit brighter blue and not as washed out, but I know he's old now, so I'm not too upset. They've clearly come a long way with the technology for the Luke deepfake, but there were some parts that took me out of it a bit, mainly in his speech and some of the rhythm and cadence of what he was saying that was just a little wooden, but overall really well done.
I kind of noticed it too. Like again, you got to remember
it's not going to be perfect.
No, it was a computer doing the speaking, but you know what? I didn't care at that point. I got Luke Skywalker on my screen.
Yeah. Seems clear to me that we are now going to get Luke Grogu Jedi Academy show. Is that maybe the Tales of the Jedi show that the title leaked out for?
Oh. In that case, Grogu has to choose the lightsaber.
Interesting. Well, or it's just a Luke show.
Yeah, that's true.
That seems more possible to me. Yeah. Luke going and still searching the galaxy.
Okay.
What a great job of weaving the prequels, the original trilogy, and even the sequels all into one episode. They are truly building out a huge interconnected Star Wars universe. And I know not everyone likes it, but I'm excited to know that they aren't afraid to bring in any character from any show when it makes sense. Can't wait for the finale, which I think has some big surprises in store for us. All the best, Star Wars fans.
Yeah. Thanks, B. Jarvis. I'm sure they've reserved some big whoa moments for the finale. And it's going to knock us off our rockers.
Yeah.
Has to.
Yeah.
All right, next up is an email from VH. And VH says, catching up with the Book of Boba Fett, episode 6. I don't think that my email will reach you in time for the next podcast, but it did. I had a few random thoughts. This episode was epic and rivaled the second chapter for intensity, intrigue, and suspense. The negatives. The only negative for me was the visual makeup on Cad Bane, and especially his teeth. There was something off and distracting about the look of Bane's complexion, nose, mouth, and teeth. See, that's what I was telling you about. That this is what I saw a lot of people complain about. But hope you listen to us and just, you know what? This is Cad Bane live. This is what he looks like.
Yep.
The positives. It was great seeing so many great characters show up in this episode. Ahsoka Tano, Cad Bane, Grogu, Luke, and Cobb Vanth. Wow. The deepfake artistry on Luke Skywalker was exceptional. Can't wait to see this technique applied to other characters from Star Wars lore. Han Solo.
Yep.
The questions. Will the Mos Pelgo / Freetown villagers rise up in anger to help defeat the Pikes? I think they have to. I
Yes.
think there's no question there. Will a Tusken army led by the female warrior arrive on the scene to revenge the death of their fellow warriors? We don't know. I mean, that would be a surprise for the finale.
Yeah, that would be. That could be. That actually could be why we, saw the flashbacks and spent so much time with the Raiders.
Yeah.
Could they come to his aid? I don't know. It seems like he was pretty convinced that the entire tribe was wiped out. So,
yeah,
it would be a little bit of a surprise.
Mm-hmm. Will any other Mandalorians show up to help in the battle against the Pikes?
No.
No Bo-Katan. No,
I don't believe so.
Yeah. Who helped Grogu escape from the Jedi Temple after the clone troopers began to implement Order 66? Yeah, that's the big one, and we don't have an answer.
Yeah, I don't know.
Questions, for sure. Were there any survivors of the blast at Garsa Fwip's cantina? Doubtful.
If so, they're missing limbs.
And they're burnt heavily, yeah.
Yeah.
Was Max Rebo killed in the explosion?
I got to look back and see if he was in there.
See if the camera, because the camera just pans by the whole band, so if he was there, he's probably a goner.
Yeah.
Will there be bonus content for the Book of Boba Fett? Perhaps a surprised added episode? Is he asking about us doing a bonus episode, or is he talking about a bonus episode of the show?
I think he's talking about an extra episode of the show. I don't think so, though, but yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I think there's got to be another season.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I mean, it's not like he's going to die in this war. I can't see that happening.
Right.
All right. The speculations. Predicting that Grogu will choose the vest over the lightsaber, mostly because his level of focus won't be what it should in order to complete his Jedi training. Cobb Vanth was shot in the shoulder by Cad Bane during their shootout, so I think that he is still alive. Perhaps Cobb would have won this gunfight if he wasn't so concerned and distracted by his too impulsive deputy. That's a good point. He was sneaking a look over to see what his deputy was doing.
Right.
And his deputy went to reach for his gun first, and that's why Cad reacted. So that's a good point. Cobb might. There's a chance he could have beaten him.
Yep, maybe.
Yeah. The rumors. I'm still unsure if Disney ever offered a clear-cut explanation for setting aside the production of the Rangers of the New Republic story. Most stories revolve around the firing of Gina Carano. However, I recently saw a rumor on Twitter that there is a possibility the story will be revived at some point with Omega starring as the leader of this Space Force. That would be awesome if true, but we all know how rumors go. Can't wait for the final episode. Signing out. May the Force be with you. Did you hear that? Omega taking over that show? I never heard that.
I never heard Omega. I heard rumors that Hera Syndulla may, but as far as I know, that show is completely dead.
It's completely shelved. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if Mega would even suit that role.
Nah. Yeah. Hard to say.
Cool, man. All right. Last up is an email from Jean-Luc.
Another week and another good episode of the Book of Boba Fett. What a great throwback to the Wild West shootout. Cad Bane came on. That was great. I think he only wounded Cobb Vanth. From what I saw, he only hit him in the shoulder. I think everybody saw it that way. Glad to see it was a chainmail shirt for Grogu. I am curious to see what he chooses. Will it be one or the other? Or will he take a page out of Luke's book and choose both? We shall see. Until next week, P.S. I will reveal my Star Wars name I've chosen. Can't wait to hear your thoughts. Jean-Luc, soon to be blank Fett.
Oh, we got another Fett name coming.
Yeah.
All right, so we have an Abba Fett, and we're going to have a something Fett. I wonder what he's going to go with.
Nice.
Yeah. Cool thoughts, Jean-Luc. Yeah. We'll wait to hear what your name is, and we're going to wait to see what happens in the finale, guys. Oh, my Star Wars gosh. I am excited. I mean, this was the build-up we needed. This was the holy crap, what are they going to do?
That's right. Yeah. It all comes down to, I think it is safe to say this is going to be a long episode, though. It better be.
It better be their longest episode. Yeah. Not some 27-minute thing.
No.
It better be at least
55.
Yes.
Maybe 60 minutes. Yeah.
Oh, man, it better be. It better be. Or a feature-length movie. Come on.
That would be pretty awesome. Yeah.
Oh, and who's going to direct it, I wonder?
Oh, good point. I feel like it's got to be Rodriguez since he started this thing.
Yeah. Well, that's a possibility.
But could be Favreau.
Could be Favreau. It's a lot going on. Somebody that can handle all of that. Yep. Cool stuff, guys. Well, everybody, thank you so much for all your feedback. This is awesome. The last 2 episodes have been crazy for feedback. You guys have really shown us that you're enjoying where this show has gone, considering it's not about Boba Fett, but we'll see what they do. Boba Fett should be a major factor in the last episode, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff, guys. As always, if you want to join the show and be part of this big finale that's coming up, just listen to this.
If you'd like to be a part of the show, you can send in feedback to themandalorepodcast at gmail.com. And also join our Facebook group. Otherwise, if you don't, we'll put a bounty on your head.
Yes, definitely. If the bounty's on your head, better make sure it's not by Cad Bane, because
yeah,
you're not getting away from that one.
That's right.
Vizsla, my God, I am excited beyond belief.
So just, I guess, just an announcement. This show won't be out till Tuesday next week, right?
That's right. Yes, we are delaying by a day when we record. Vizsla's going to be away. I think he's taking the jump ship and he's flying off to another planet on Sunday night, so we're not going to be able to record Sunday night. We're going to have to record Monday. So the finale episode of Mandalore for Book of Boba Fett will be out Tuesday next week.
So does that mean an extra day of feedback?
Yeah, that means everybody gets an extra day for sending in feedback. You're right.
There you go.
There you go.
Get your feedback in, and We'll talk about it probably just as long as an episode, if not longer. So we might have to start sooner.
Yes. Or, I mean, if it's just an all-out action episode, there's not going to be a lot of depth to talk about.
That's true, too.
This one had everything, and we just had to really dive into it. I mean, this is our longest one. We're close to 4 hours.
Yes, true.
I
feel like it's definitely 4 hours.
It's fun, though. It's great to get to hang out with you and talk Star Wars stuff. So yeah, we'll see. We have no idea. We don't know how long the episode's going to be. We don't know how long the podcast's going to be. It all depends on what we get.
Yes.
Next week. But everybody have a good start to their week, and we'll look forward to everyone's reactions on Wednesday when this episode drops.
Yep.
Whether we stay up late to watch it or we get up really early in the morning. I don't know.
I'll wait till I know my normal time, which is like getting up early for work and watching it beforehand. So
yeah, I'll have to do that too.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff, everybody. All right, have a good week, guys. We'll talk to you in a week. This is CyberRen, and we have spoken.
Have a great week, everybody. Enjoy the finale, and happy Star Wars Podcast Day.
Oh, right.
Yes. So go check out more podcasts. This is Divizla. This is the way.
The Mandalore is not affiliated with Disney, Lucasfilm, or Fairview Entertainment. This is a fan-made podcast for entertainment purposes only. All music and sound effects are solely owned by their respective properties.